All right, so without wasting any much of your time by blabbing too much, I am Tepo. I didn't introduce myself. Hey, my Tepo. My name is Tepo Ndovu. I am a seasoned and very vibrant, for lack of a better word, super excited, super zealous land activist, and a true son of the soil, an African child, a Pan-Africanist, someone who's pro-Africans and pro-black people. And we are here to dish out to you all that God has implanted in us. And with us to share this wonderful message on development of land is a gentleman who has impacted a couple of lives, mine particularly, and I hope yours after you listen to what he has to say. A man whose fire is not born out of his own, a man whose fire is ignited by our Creator, with a mission bigger than him, a mission that if we accept and let flourish will change our lives in ways beyond imagination. A man who has answered the call to come and teach us, and first before he taught us, he had to learn and allow God to use him. A land activist, but calling him a land activist I think is a word too small. He's greater than that. He's a man sent to emancipate our minds from mental slavery, in the words of the famous Bob Marley. A man with a vision, a man with a passion for what he's about to teach, Ray Gilbert Sissi. That's it for all.
Good afternoon. You may say, I don't know how to read the car. Many people are Gilbert Sissi, because I'm the fourth child of a family of 5. Very inquisitive as I was. Well, later then discovered myself that I was inquisitive, but actually from a very early age I was, as many of us announce our arrival at a very early age. But I don't know what I do when they look at children, they are unable to really decipher. But back in the ancient days I hear, it used to be a science to study the characteristics of a new life and determine how to be able to cultivate or orient that new life. Every one of us comes and has to offer to the universe that they are born into. That's why our fingerprints apparently are so different. We're so unique. But apparently, if we are in a world that does not look for cultivation of natural talents, then we miss out on the opportunity to be able to benefit from that natural talent. Apparently, it is the way of nature that whenever there's a group of people and those people have a need, just a need, and sometimes when we have needs, we go to church, we pray, we ask God to answer our prayers, we desire. But as I have learned or observed as well, the rule here in environment breeds heredity. As a result of that yearning, as members of a group, that yearning then, it's an hormone, because the yearning is chemical and it's hormonal and it's genetic. It produces out of one of us or some of us children that are born through women, as children are born through women. Some women just falls pregnant. And we don't think it's consequential. Until that pregnancy is connected completely with the yearning of those people, so that the answer to our prayers really is given through procreation. Unfortunately, when these children come, as many of us come, the world is not so friendly toward the gift. Because the world is not, or the communities or the societies of the world, there are advanced societies obviously in the world who understand, who are more in touch with their culture and their tradition and everything. It's in touch even with their outside world. There's no disconnect. If you have problems, but then those problems don't translate into your everyday today experiences and translate into the way in which those everyday today experiences can produce solutions, then you lack intimacy, you lack continuity. So it is through that very unusual process that I believe that some of us come into the world, and then we come with a yearning, a desire, a passion, and we don't quite know what it is. How one can end up going into drugs and alcohol and self-destructing, because because the world is not ready, the education is not ready to deal with natural characteristics. The education is too structured. There are times we are going to be this, we are going to be that. The education doesn't look and see what is needed, and is this child the solution? And as we pray for things, we must understand how to go to church and pray to God is that He doesn't really answer prayers through a magic wand. He answers prayers through the very laws of nature that He has put in play. So from time to time, children come. I came into the world with this desire to want to know, but I really didn't know what I wanted to know. I just knew I would just have problems with education. Sometimes when I'm in the classroom, and I'm very happy because one of my classmates is here, who I don't even maybe please recognize him. We attended at this very university. He is a star student, amazing, top of the class. I hope he doesn't get embarrassed at that. He's too old to get embarrassed at such a compliment. He was a star student. I was the exact opposite, but there was a similarity that people couldn't pick, in the sense that I also, I'm studious, not studious as I was, because I wouldn't go to class. I would almost like run away from the teachers. When they speak, it's almost as though I know what they're going to say. And I wanted to engage professors and argue with them over things that I had not studied. Sometimes it's like, Hababua, it's like I already know what they're going to say. I don't understand. I don't know if you understand that instinct in humanity, that kitso is not necessarily academic. Kitso comes from the human being. But if you are not comfortable in your skin, you're going to end up with whether you accuse yourself or beat up yourself or look down on yourself or do all sorts of things that you shouldn't be doing. But if society was set up in a manner that it can accommodate all of us, and it took into account our characteristics, we could cultivate and grow children a lot better. Instead of forcing children, we could see and into what they want to know and develop them. So I had a tendency to just be a rebellious student, a tendency not to want to follow. I don't like organized setups, because somehow I felt I am an out-of-the-box type of student. Yet I wasn't failing. I mean, this is a student who doesn't go to school, but he get just the marks to allow him to be able to get by. Some thought, you must be highly intelligent. I said, I don't know, but I'm not getting the super marks. But the desire for knowledge was very deep inside me. And my father, at a certain stage in my development, determined that he wanted me to go and study land surveying. So he just came. This was after we finished our A-levels, which was part one of a university here. And then we were to apply for courses to go and get into our relevant professional fields of study. And my father said to me, son, I want you to go. I had gone to him telling him I want to go and study telecommunication engineering. I had this dream of becoming a cop, a super cop who would use telecommunication to catch all the thieves. And this is influenced obviously by maybe the movies and the novels that I had read and all that. So that's what I wanted. And then my father said to me, no, that's not what you're going to do. And I said, no, but that's what I want to do. He said, no, I tell you what to do. You see, the generation of that time, my father, they were not the type that, I think they were a lot better than we are parents today. So they would look at the world and determine what's needed and guide with authority. So my father never even gave me an opportunity, or whether it's up for discussion for me to become a land surveyor. He said, I want you to study land surveying. And he looked at me with a stern face as he said it, and I said, because he could tell that I was really against what he was saying. So he said, but I asked, why do you want me to study land surveying? What is that? It sounded so boring, eh? Land? What do they do with land? What is there in land that can really cause a young person to feel enthusiastic and, compelled to want to know more about it? It's nothing. I mean, people were doing electrical engineering, man. People were going out there to do medicine and other things. Land? No. Then he said to me, he looked at me and said, so that you can help us. And as he said that, I have a memory of it, because when he said, so that you can help us, I could see tears form in his eyes, emotions come up. And then I wondered, why is now Ntate becoming emotional? Because he knows I'll go into exactly what he's asking me to do. But this emotion he's expressing, I then later found out that it came from his wish that we could, not as Wanahahwe, but as a people, because we are a people. So anybody who desires things really reflects on the condition of the people or the society or the home, the set of humanity out of which he comes. Either it's a race or it's a... So how we are it is because he felt that there had been an inadequacy that had gone on for far too long in his life. He had seen and wondered, my profile. He was an administrator. He became a town clerk at some stage. He worked for government, even when we took over independence in 1966. My father was one of the few, when everybody from 5 they could form the new government and they were deployed in the various sectors of the civil service. And he had come into contact with the reality of our inadequacy. He had come into contact with the reality of our lack of knowledge in an area of life called land. He had seen and wondered to himself, what is the difference between us and those who came that we call settlers, the British settlers, who came in around 1885. They came, our foreparents were here. And I wish to hasten to say to you, brothers and sisters, that I speak with you here today and recognizing fully that you are part of a people who used to be here. This is not a new meeting. We're just meeting in this day, but we represent almost like infinity going backwards. We've had meetings before. In the other life, I know you might think I'm sounding a bit, but we are part of people. We always try to look at ourselves in our present day time frame. But we come from people who come from people, who come from people, who come from people. Our grandparents desired that we go to school. In fact, this very institution was set up by the desire of people who were not educated, who wanted others to get educated for them. We are educated not on account of our own selfish will. And education is not supposed to be a selfish thing. Education is supposed to be a continuum, a means to serve the continuation of the people out of which you come. So we're having this meeting on this 27th day of July, 2024. But this meeting is a meeting, we are doing like a recap. If we had met in 1960 something, that meeting wouldn't have been as fruitful as the one that we're going to have here today. It is out of what has happened between then and now that now we can speak with authority, having reflected. And those of us who were then taken, as I say, my father then determined that I study land surveying. And I did go and study land surveying. We went abroad, we were sponsored, and we were receiving lavish stipends. We were taken to the best universities in the world, man. By our people, by this country. The very people out of which we come made a determination of what it is. At A, at B, up to a certain level. How does all? Rabba Peak about secondary school. How does all? re ise bana ba rona ba ithuta se batho bao ba re ba bonang re ba eletsang re batlang go tshwana le bone ka wa itse tsamaiso e rileng ba go ithuta se batho ba ba sitseng. And indeed we went and studied, and in that studying there are those who study and just accept education the way it's given and come back and just are comfortable in their jobs. They don't really have any desire for the fruition of the evolution of their people towards a higher grade. They are comfortable to earn a salary and take their children to school and go to Sunday school and do the necessary and vote and continue with life. There are those. There's nothing wrong with them. We are different as people, but there are those, and I want to believe I'm one of this other set, who care, who cannot help themselves, who want to see the past and the present make sense, who want to search and see what is missing to bring us from one stage to the next, who question, who interrogate. Such ones normally will come across a lot of hardship, because sometimes they're seen as radical, sometimes they're thought of as critics, government critics. Sometimes they're seen of as you're not really conformist. You're not conformist because you see, you can't conform to something that you have appraised professionally and found that it is wanting. Some will know things, but some will not have the courage to stand up and speak. Because when you stand up and teach, as I'm about to teach this afternoon, you have to have the courage. You must have the love. And what disappears, the fear, is the love. When you love something, you're not afraid. Fear comes from, questionable love. I seen a mother fight off a bear that was threatening to take her child. I learned and scared the bear away. I seen a rat. Only as big as you are as a human being, when it gets cornered, even somewhere, at you, that I will bite you if you come at me. It is this instinct in the human being that when love is sufficient, you don't have fear, even for death itself. It disappears, because fear is what stops us from being able to tell the truth. And when we can't tell the truth, how do you have a discourse that doesn't have honesty in it? A scientific discourse, for that matter. I mean, scientists have to tell the truth. If chemicals cannot mix, and if they mix, they will produce a certain result, then you have to be honest, not to do that. But if honesty is lacking, then you will mix the wrong chemicals and then come up with a disastrous consequence. So it is in the light of that when one such as myself, as I say, started now going into, I'm just going to take you, I want you to walk with me a little bit because I don't want to lose you anyway. At the point that I hope and pray that we will all arrive at today, more in a very, and the fact that in fact it's a relatively small group, I like it because then at least I can also feel you a little bit, because this is my first in terms of attempting this brain surgery, as it were, to go into the minds and the psyche of our people and to try to look and see. I don't want to miss it. I can't afford. And if I can, just get one of you to sync with me. If I get all of you, I'll thank God. Mighty. But I trust my God so much that even if I could just get one of you to be able to connect with me, I would have won today. Just one. I'm looking for one from amongst you. But if I get two, all praise is due to Allah. If I get three, thanks to Almighty. If I get all of you, then So it is through that I want to say, because I was a free thinker and I was a land surveyor. And by the way, we didn't always have land surveyors in Botswana. Land surveyors, the first land professional registered land surveyor was in 1985, 1984, the first. So I just want you to have a picture for where we are in terms of understanding and why we seem to be troubled and bedeviled by so many problems, and what we can do to solve all those problems. If we could do it with emotions, sarona, you wait, with our thinking caps on, with our focus, with honesty, both sides, to look for solutions. And and empower. And so as I worked and started working as a young graduate, a young boy, it was a painful journey because I would meet these situations that have solutions, that I knew academically had solutions. I wrote exams. I didn't say that I didn't love knowledge, by the way. The formal training, classroom. I would feel fine when I'm just sitting there. I felt restricted. But I love knowledge. So even what was taught in class, I would later meet him or others in the corridors. I think I remember one incident, they'll be arguing and then I'll come. Then I want to ask, and I like questions that were not necessarily academic, but that required you to think. Like, why is the sky blue? Those were some of the questions that used to excite me. Why is it when it sets it gets red? What is that red coming from the horizon? What does it mean? What is happening here? Where are we? You know, these are my questions. What am I? I mean, even as a 6 years old, this is me. How did I get here? Who are those people? So existential questions I would ask. I would ask questions, but you see, these questions I know what about reports. But the reports where are we? Where are we going? These are the questions that probe and propel a person towards finding structured answers now and be able to have a comfortable and confident posture. So as I started working, I realized the academic knowledge that I had acquired over the years, and when I got registered, there was a question asked, by the way, that I want to share with you. To become a registered land surveyor, first and foremost, you get your professional qualification, which is the degree, right? After the degree, you then you do some hours, it's a field work in what they call internship or articles in other professions. After you finish that, now you go and sit for an exam. That exam is to allow you to become what you call a registered land surveyor. When you write that exam, you ask practical questions about the industry, what really obtains and what so forth. There was a question I remember that was compulsory. It was 40 marks. The question said, you as a person have inherited a piece of agricultural land, either on state land, either on freehold territory or on tribal territory. It's a huge piece of land. You know what is agricultural, so to speak, anaplasi, so to speak. You have inherited it, and you have a dream to develop a residential housing estate like Mahan. Imagine yourself. Put yourself in Mahan's shoe. He's a very good example, by the way, from an academic level and also from a practical level. He is a case study. And you know, I'm surprised that a case such as Mahan is there. But if you ask me, has it ever been rooted through academia to place it in context so that the students can appreciate what it takes to do what he did? I don't think so. And I know why it's not like that. I'll tell you why. So we ask the question, you have inherited a huge piece of land, either on tribal territory. These are options I get, or on freehold territory. And you want to develop a residential housing estate, a huge estate like Maha. What do you do? What are the steps? Take us through the whole process of the steps that you need to follow all the way to procurement of funds and final development. 40 marks compulsory. Ooh, oh, the question. So you have to choose either tribal land, which could be any one of us. A lot of us have inherited tribal agricultural land. I know we have different sizes. Or freehold territory, which would be a few. Those by the freehold. And they've inherited them. It's there. And you've got a compelling situation where you can actually proceed and create an estate, what do you do? And of course, I'll get into the answer very quickly. I don't want to bore you with the details, but it is to say, we answered that question. I answered that question. I aced that exam. I got my marks. I got my certificate as a registered land surveyor. I felt, oh man, I can do amazing things. I can keep on in the book. I managed to answer a question. So I think I can do it. And you see, this is the dilemma of the student. He knows the answer. Poor student. And then I went out into the industry, went out into the world with an answer to create billions for anybody. And then I tried. If I tell you, he is one of those that I tried with. I'm looking at him right here. So there's so many clients. This question is there. Then I go out to answer the question in the real world. What do I meet? I meet the biggest mountain to climb. I meet authorities. I meet gaps in understanding. I meet problem after problem. And this is, fortunately, because I'm not a person who gives up easily, it became a new field of study. Now I realize, I finished at university. I know the answers. But no, there's another university. That university is called reality. And the people, and their thoughts, and their misconceptions, and their issues, psychological and otherwise, and I was like, oh my God. So this, and then when I looked at that, I now started to react. So I tried to be patient. It took me 20 years. And I would do this, but then, you see this question, I'm mentioning this question, just as an example of how important it was in that exam. I would take it was 40% of the exam. So it means that for one question to have that level of, those marks, it should tell you how important that question is to the people, at least from the academics point of view. Again, the trainers, those who produce curriculums, claim, quote unquote, wholly, they are trying to provide solutions to real life problems. Why then would it be in the curriculum if it wasn't meant to serve us? So yes, but then they weighed it so well that they gave it the weight of 40% in a while. So Homo told me early in the day, I registered in 2000, in the year 2000, how important the inheritance of land is, how important the preparation of land for development is, how important the whole process that leads to acquisition of funds, bonding, getting developers on board, how important that whole process is. And then only to come out into the public space to find out there's only a few people who have the beneficiation, who have the privilege of enjoying the answer to that question and enjoying how to be able to roll it out and make a livelihood for themselves and fortunes for their children and families. Yet I knew that every citizen has got access to the kind of inheritance that was spoken of in that question. So I had to now confront a new dispensation. And then out of that was born, at first, like as I say, I reacted. So what was my reaction? No, quite simple. My reaction was to fight them. So my reaction, I said, no man, again I've got streaks. How militant streaks. So the militant streak in me came out and I said, no, maybe if I can just tell these people off as much as I can, and God has blessed me with oratorical skills, I'll slam them with my tongue. Let's see how I do it. So I went on radio, I think it was around 2019, so you hear me working it out. I think it was around COVID, and I was like, God, what's going on? And I'm trying to break out of this thing, man, and I'm trying to deal with these people then I went on this path. It took me a couple of years, 2-3 years of just talking like a madman. But also understanding that I cannot afford to be mad, because you see, the society can make you mad. And the people have needs. You're not meeting the needs. I mean, I have clients. I must deliver to my clients. What is going on? And my clients are watching, and I know I'm right. I meet lawyers. I meet different kinds of people. I sit with them. I engage professionally. I'm able to know that I'm correct. I knew I was correct when I aced the exam. It's not like I'm doubting myself, but I'm in this space of confusion. And I'm sure students of all spheres and walks of professions, different professions, I am pretty sure that in your professional life, this thing that I speak of, Nakibuya from a point of view of a land surveyor, I know it's characteristic of us. I'm sure you've had a contradiction of what you know with the application of it. And if you end up just giving up and just join them and just become lethargical and just laissez-faire and just say, oh, this is what life is. How will you know it saddens me, I would accede to something that leads to mass suffering. It saddens me that we would exceed. So along the way, because I like to adapt, I never give up. Never. You have to kill me to make me give up. So I will work around any situation. I will try one approach. If it doesn't work, I go back, take stock, and come back with another. I will pray to God to give me the energy, give me the understanding and the wisdom to come back and deal with this thing. So this issue you're dealing with the industry or the marketplace and the knowledge and the separation, I knew we need to close the gap. This gap needs to be closed. So I took a closer look at it. I interrogated it. I took it, ascended it to the level of psychology and history and philosophy. I looked at it and I didn't want it to interfere with the aspect of my nature that is divine, which is to know, because knowledge and wisdom are from God. I don't want to feel deflated on account of a person who is given up or has been battered to pulp by life and the peers. Because it's the bad thing. To lose hope is the worst thing. And it is what leads to disparity, helplessness, and a lack of invigoration, and a lack of let's see what it has for me today. I want to be able to feel alive. So I would look at those that made it hard to make the progress. I started now reducing them to a textbook. I started taking notes. I started looking at them. And then I realized also, I'm a scholar, which is what I want you to meet today. I'm a scholar. I'm not a mudslinger or a politician. I care nothing about politics, by the way. In fact, I think it's the worst thing. I think knowledge is more important. I think to know and to take what you know and to convert it into a livelihood is what's most important. And it is possible to do that. We just have to be systematic about it. With deliberate and systematic. Take your time. There's no rush. Give it day. And it must be given to you. And in fact, if we were responsible citizens, we would equip one more. And I'm very happy to see Sandia, because this type of knowledge is knowledge that should be provided lovingly, slowly, ever so gently, to be placed in the subconscious mind even. You don't even need to place it in the conscious mind. Just place it in the subconscious mind of the child and go away. So that when you are not there, it will come out. That's actually it's okay. Scratching, because it is in him to know the right thing to do. So, and school is good for that, because school is a repetitive approach where we can be taught things repetitively until we understand. That's why we have courses. That's why we go every day. So I then decided the way to deal with the problems that we have. And like I said, the land subject is the biggest subject. You know, brother, when he said, you are walking land. Oh, man. You got me there, brother. Because land is big. Land is big. For a moment, if you could just close your eyes with me. Close your eyes and just imagine that you are sitting on a planet, on a spaceship created by God. And it's moving at a speed of 1,037 and a third mile per hour around the sun. You can open your eyes. But I'm saying you're on something here that you didn't create. And this thing moves and you don't even feel the wobble. You don't feel it's designed so mathematically precise. And it produces out of it life. It has been here for trillions and trillions of years. We come and go and leave it here. It's here to stay. There is a way in which this thing is managed. Now, from time to time, the God gives the scepter of rulership in the world to some people or a people. I want you to listen to me carefully now, because I'm bringing this home. I want to bring it right home. From time to time in the history of the world, the Lord of creation gives the scepter. A scepter of rulership. Say that.
Yes.
Yeah. From time to time, the authority to rule. It could be BDP today, just saying, or it could be another tomorrow. The power, the scepter to rule. But the responsibility on those who have been given that scepter to rule is to rule in accordance with the laws of nature, the laws of creation. There are laws out there. Gravity is one of those laws. You break it, you can pray all you like. How about in a building? You can pray all you like. You're going to smash 3-4 story building about Tola and say, Jesus Christ help me. He can't. I'm telling you. Why? Because the law that was created by God, if you violate it, this is why the Bible says the wages of sin are death. What it means basically is transgression to a law has a result. So this result, the rulership that is placed on certain people is such that they must rule in accordance with the laws of nature, in harmony with the laws of nature. When they contradict those laws, it produces hell amongst the people. When they contradict those laws, especially repeatedly, it creates animosity, confusion, chaos, and ultimately disruption, and you have problems that come up in the world. Eventually, you will have revolution, you will have people fighting you if you do not rule in accordance with the law that is righteous, the laws of freedom, the laws of justice, and the laws of equality. So, in saying that, I'm saying the center of rulership that you and I have grown up under, and it's no secret. When we came into the world, we found the scepter of rulership being under which people? Loko. We came into this world and found the scepter of rulership, Mudiwa places it in the hands of white people. It's God who placed it there. He has to have placed it there, they wouldn't have it. He does it himself. It's deliberate. And that scepter of rulership is spreads as wide as the whole planet. You can't stop where it stops. You can't tell where it stops, by the way. It is what God has given in them to it. Now, they have the scepter of rulership. We came into the world, our foreparents were born under that scepter of rulership. They came, I'm saying, in 1885, when they came here, at least in the recorded history, they found our foreparents. Our foreparents. And our foreparents knew very little about the system of governance of these rulers. These people who have been given the scepter of rulership. So Basagi Barona didn't know how to interact because they didn't have it with them. So how did they then react? Our parents then had to be subservient to them. So we take it from there. There is a people who came. Now I want to translate it into the modern context, into the world that you and I live in. So our parents then struggled to teach us. Our parents then struggled to close the gap so that we may be able to understand these that have this scepter of rulership and how they do what they do. So it took years to bring us at least even up to speed. At the time when they arrived, it was this huge mass of land. Then they thought, well, it'll take too much to bring them to speed. We have to educate them. But before we can educate them, can we Christianize them at least? They were busy debating how to deal with us because we were just sitting there, looking at them, totally in the dark. And this God created, blank, because He's not interested. The rulership, we will go by that person. Freehold. That's 23% of this country. Freehold, freehold, re tla bo re nna le dithata mo go tsone, re tla bo re nna le dira the title deed. Okay? Now what then is this title deed again? This was 1885. Why would my grandparents not know what he's talking about? And then we will have no, sorry, I didn't say 23%. Let me withdraw that. 7% was freehold. 7%, not erase it from the record. It is 7% was freehold. 23% was set aside as what they call crown land, which is today what you call state land. Crown land ke le gore government of the day. O direla dio tsa go teng. Ditoropo, the capital city, administrative centers, and all that. In the 23%. But the majority of the land, which is 70%, the tribal territory, where the natives, the indigenous people would live. Whenever it's in September, go on the 70%, and how I go, the better advisor again host. The better council, you are native advisor council. The hosts are like in the bar, but hosts are like advisor, or leader Jang, that's somebody who is a Hatsele, leader Jang, this guy leader Jang, the host. The host, I don't know anything about land. And I'm not a like host. Never mind, I want to talk about the or more freeholding by rain to the because there is a key to a talk. We wouldn't understand what a title deed is. First, we needed to learn mathematics. How are you going to understand a title deed when you don't even know mathematics? How are you going to understand coordinates when you don't know mathematics? It was like late in the day. It is actually a very painful story if you think about it. Very sad or cute, actually. It's a cute story if you take it from an innocent point of view. I can just about imagine what it felt like, or working with them. I can imagine Haskins like, I mean, so I know what my chief was like. I understand what my chief. I come from the people, so I know he didn't know much, but he calls this guy a friend. How can you have a friend who knows so much? So much he knows your world and sees it coming up before you see it. Even before I act. So that was the relationship we had with white people. They were ahead of us, miles ahead of us. They still are. Yes, sir?
If have to correct one little point. Raho actually the Kama knew the evils of white community. He knew the folly that comes after drinking the white man's alcohol. Then he said,
Thank you, brother. Thank you. That's fine. We'll teach each other soon. Just let me wrap it up. But I take a lot of wisdom there. Yes, he may have known, but he didn't have the science. I don't know how I get general knowledge, get the scientific, mathematical formulations and formulas and processes of how things are done. This is what I'm talking about, by knowledge and knowing, because of the world that we are in today and what it takes to do things and get things done. So we had the relationship where we were underdogs. We had the relationship where, yes, we may have more dignity than the man who came, but we didn't know what he knows. And we migrated ourselves over the generations to bring ourselves to power. This is the effort of our process of evolution, is to get to a point where we are, at least there's a semblance of parity, where there's a semblance of unison, where we can speak on a table, man to man, where I can be able to say to you, you're wrong here, and this is how you're wrong. So the whole process brought us into this area, how we became the late entrance. We start working out and thinking and gaining education. Unfortunately, education think about it that way. You are being trained by your oppressor. You are not being trained by your friend. So how can I teach you right if I don't treat you right? You have to understand. So the education, its own encryptions, the handicap the free mind to be able to see into all things. Because we cannot educate you and bring you to the same level. The superior cannot bring you to the same level as him. It will defeat the purpose of his superiority. He can only give you functional education. The education that can make you go to the industry and work and become this and that, be a captain, be a foreman, be a this. But can he really give you an education that can make you not need him? Can he really give you an education that can make you outcompete him? No, it can't. But the same God who gives the scepter of leadership is the same God that causes children to have a quantum leap into what they were taught and what they come to know. In other words, I don't know, I want you to get me right. They can be able to figure out what they were not taught. They figure it out themselves because they come with a yearning that is beyond the classroom. So how Muruta? Why am I? Because we're constantly questioning what it can be more, what's a man and more. Oh, hello, about it is a thing that comes out of the natural forces and the laws of nature. And when those children come, we only pray that they are received. I think I'm one of them. That's what I'm saying to you. I think I'm one of them. I believe that I spend time, years invested. When I go into this mode, I can't sleep at night. No. I think some of my brothers who are in my groups, I think I'm a terrorist on social media because I blow out the steam and I talk up a storm and I keep on going. You can't satisfy me with no yes answers. So here we come, slowly into the modern day. I'm trying to arrive at the point that we're in. There is an obligation to use land. That is a natural obligation. And you have a natural obligation. So let me then we'll do a question and answer so that I don't lose my train of thought. We have an obligation to use land. That obligation is not an option. I think people think like, you're looking at home, the house will be full. People think the land question is optional. It's not optional, it's compulsory. And white people know that, but now we are getting to know that. White people, or those Western civilization, understand the land question so well that they've inbuilt it even from kindergarten. You won't see it, it's subliminal in everything they do. Now, I wanted to say to you that everything is a system. Everything is a system. For the system to work. It's a cogwheel, it's an arrangement. Interlinking feedback mechanisms, logic circuits, and progression to achieve an intended objective. It is not a chaotic thing that you can use as you please, break this one up, start up another one, do discordance. That's discordance. The system in its efficiency, in a resonance. Pina is like a symphony orchestra, where when you are, say the president can die. I don't say these different melodies and the different ministries and the different departments and conduct in a particular way. We get harmony. Harmony is success. Harmony is the effect of development. Harmony is when we don't lose time, when we don't have problems over, we don't have medicines, we have unemployment, we've got potholes, we've got chaotic transport. They are part of a system and they must link up as such. And if the conductor, but when we don't have the understanding of this system as a system that needs coherence, that needs interconnectivity, that needs different departments to talk to each other, then we will not achieve the synchronicity, the harmony that is desired. Then when I get it, is the difference between so basically what we find a lot in Africa, and I conclude this thing, I say it boldly, that the black man is incoherent. And it is not on account of his color. It is not because of the color of our skin that the sun is coming out. No. It may have started that way. But because of the quality of knowledge that we have, or even if we have the right quality of knowledge, it's how we use it. I said the other day, you can have the right tool, but not know how to use it. So that right tool is useless. How will you know how to use it? So we go out around benchmark, we go out around Twitter, we go out and set up systems, we go out and learn all kinds of things. We've got many professionals. See, people will say, why do you think there's this problem? You must be the problem. But why is it Isn't that interesting? Wouldn't you think in the day and age that we're in, we should have efficient systems in place? But I don't have anything. Government departments and ministries and what have you, they're well resourced. One such department that I'll talk about, Land Board, but I'll talk about it when the time comes. But it is where you see, so, yeah, I wanted to bring with you, beloveds, my brothers and sisters, today on just this aspect of land that I think is very pertinent. As I say, there are many there are many things about land that we're going to have to learn together. And we're learning together to bring all these digits together. We're going to learn how to bring the different elements together. But I chose this one as the first port of call. It is about development plans. Development plans is the subject today. That is what I want to talk to you about this afternoon. Because we are looking at development planning. But a desire to rise, a recognition of the history that we come from, a recognition that we have a responsibility to the children, and a determined, deliberate intention. Yahweh, we can do this, and with the help of Almighty God. And development plans is the first part of call. Development planning you mentioned because, for a very simple reason, development planning is what gives rise to the worth of land in a very unique way. Development plan, we need to first and foremost define what it is. In the area, the development plan. And how we about a development plan here? What is your responsibility? Development plan, I saw something and care about your life. It is not supposed to be that. A development plan is the most important legislation that in land management that you will ever find. I have then found, through a very sad process, it is an omission in our midst. A total omission. And I realized, it is an omission. Because there's no watchdog. There's no watchman. There's nobody looking. We're just going. And we name things, and we did exactly what we expected to do. We put them together. A development plan, which is now where we are entering into in the phase of the lecture. Let's talk about a development plan. The first question is to answer. What is a development plan? Just out of, I'm not creating a question and answer yet, but just out of curiosity, just from the top of your mind, just to sense, maybe a couple of people, development plan. If there's anybody who can volunteer just to give a note to you.
What government is thinking?
Brilliant. Yeah. Anybody else? With another? Okay. I think it's a good, fair enough, very good answer. What government is thinking? Right. And the government is not only thinking, it is also what he is intending. And not only intending, what he has legislated as the blueprint. Into a gazetted statutory instrument, a compelling document. Like don't drink and drive. It's a law. So development plan is what you're thinking and what you want. If we hit through processes, if we are you can break the law. You're not allowed to break the law. It's actually against the law to break the law. And the person who is given that sacrosanct responsibility not to break the law, a development plan. Again, it's what the government is thinking. Now, let me refine it at the beginning. What he's thinking in terms of how he's going to use the land. How the land is to be used. What is going to be where? Where are they going to be buildings? What sort of buildings? What roads are we going to have? Where is the railway lines going to go? Where are the telephone lines going to go? What are we going to have? Where? How? And in what time frame is this development plan going to be recognized as having the force of law? What every one of us should be guided, subservient to, and to honor, respect, and live up to, or work around. So now when we have that as a plan, that is now being converted into law, that tells us precisely what we need to do, how we need to do it. There are acts of parliament, as you all know. There are different fields have got acts of parliament. Of course, the biggest, the mother of them is the Constitution. And the Constitution has provisions that protect citizens in terms of their rights to land. There are two particular sections of the Constitution that I want you to note in your notepads. There's going to be a little bit more note taken now. I'm getting into that phase of the lecture where you need to take, punch in your phone. Section 3 of the Constitution is key, as it speaks about your right to your property rights. Section 8 of the Constitution is key, as it speaks about protecting that your rights should not be deprived. You should not be deprived of rights without compensation. You should not be dispossessed without compensation. It speaks particularly about protecting. It protects your property the same way it protects your life. It gives the same level of reverence to property as it does to human life. This is the Constitution. Now we move from the Constitution to an act that I want you to all get. Please get the act. Please. You have to go to government printers. You have to buy these acts, my beloved. We'll read them together. I'm available. One of the fact that you are in this class, you are my brothers and sisters. You can call me and send me a message at night. It is my joy to answer you. It's my gig. It's what I'm born to do. You can't trouble me about land. You trouble other people. You please me when you ask me land questions. Do you know what it feels like to be born to do something? So please, I can leave certain things. Over time, I won't cover. I'm your friend and I'm your brother. And I will give you the benefit of my life to make sure that you are as illuminated as God intends you to be. I will do whatever it takes. And all I can do is just give you my life. I can't give you anything more than that. So please, purchase the Town and Country Planning Act. Town and Country Planning Act. It is the overarching act of parliament that covers all land in Botswana, in town and in country. The Town and Country Planning Act that falls under the Minister of Lands and gives the Minister of Lands a sacrosanct responsibility when it comes to development plans. Isimola period, this Town and Country Planning Act, Section 1, interpretation, citations, and then Section 3, which is what I want you to go and read. Note it. Go and read what is the opening into this arena of development plans and what they mean. Section 3 reads, it reads, in the Town and Country Planning Act, under duties of the minister, the minister shall ensure consistency in the framing and execution of a comprehensive policy with respect to the use and development of all land in Botswana in accordance with development plans for Botswana, prepared in accordance with the provisions of Part 4. It is the duty of the minister. Well, once there's a development plan of an area, and a development plan, let's go back to development plan again, don't forget. And then, development plan, he was a life, a time span, over which it should be recognized legally, over which it has the force of law. And in that time frame is spelled out what development plan you, and it is gazetted, and then it is adopted by the minister. And once it is adopted, it becomes effective and operational. And it is the duty of the minister to make sure that there is no deviation in the use of that land or the development of it. Two things in that section: use and development. It must be protected. How will I allow is against the law? It's against section 3. Can you believe it, my brothers and sisters, that this section of the law, and you see the reason why there are laws is so that we become functional. If there is a law, the legislator puts across a law, there are a spider web of laws that speak to one another, that are written intelligently by a legislator whose intention is to make sure that we have fluency and things are systematic. Not this bagatoni disconnection, because the minute the fluidity you have introduced in the system. Basically what we're saying is we need to learn the white man's law and how the wisdom of it. Why it is successful amongst Makhoa is because they don't break their own laws. Would you believe that the minister of lands, not only this one, the ministers of lands have been violating this law for all the years they've been ministers? Can you believe the enormity of the crime? Do you know what it feels like when somebody has made such a colossal error, but he's got an attitude about his boss? Me, as an kid, because we know it. Can't let people think there's something wrong with you, even if it is enshrined in the law. So it is important for us not to be emotional, but compassionate also. I have compassion for my brothers and sisters. I have compassion for the ministers who have sent this country down the drain. Maybe they didn't know, I say. They couldn't have known. If they had known better, they would have done better. It's okay. We're going through a phase here. It's allowed. You see, they say evil is a bad word to use against somebody after they have repented. They say, if somebody didn't know, maybe don't judge them too harshly. Allow them to know first, then you can make a proper informed judgment. Now that they know. It is one thing to be wrong because you don't know. There's a completely different thing to be wrong after you know. So what we are trying to do now is to enter a phase, not only with the public, but also with authority. Antagonism. Because we understand the history. We know this is not unique to Botswana. These type of omissions bedevil the black nation the world over. You can go to the Caribbean today. I haven't been to the Caribbean, the islands of the Pacific. I haven't been, but I know they're going through the same thing. Oh, they are. You go wherever you go, black people, wherever you find us, we suffer a certain knowledge deficiency. And the knowledge deficiency is what creates our chaotic lifestyles and tumultuous lifestyles, if you want to put it that way, where we are all over the place and it's chaos. But this chaos is not there in white communities for a simple reason, not because they are white, but because their laws fortunately come from their own culture and they are able to inbuild them and follow them for consistency and harmony. Harmony is what produces success. Discord is what produces failure. And then you've got elements there, people successful in the little blimps of success. We don't want blimps of success. I can't celebrate blimps of success because that's not success. How am I going to break it through? Then that's not success. It's not successful actually. You cannot be more successful than the collective picture of your own people. You will succeed if you rise as a collective. That's success. That's why the white man is ahead of us, because they succeed as a society. Their society is more efficient because it obeys the very laws of the system that they have sold to us. And we said we accepted it, but we have not. In actual fact, we have not embraced fully the white man's system. So yes, much as I'm Pan-Africanist like my brother here is, but we are past liking the word Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is to want good for your people. So we want our people to master the white man's system, to master with proficiency. The difference between us and how they do what they do, and do as they do, so that we may get the same results. Not to violate, shooting off the hips in all directions, mudslinging, screaming at each other unnecessarily, shouting at fools, making clowns out of ourselves, instead of making sure subject matter is put on the table and it is clarified properly. I said to you, Section 3 of the Town and Country Planning Act is that's how you get into the development plan. And that's what compels the minister to observe the development plan. That's what, and a minister's authority, by the way, is delegated authority. So I get a minister in his person, get a minister in his capacity. I'm talking about the minister as in the relegation of authority that he has given to land boards, as in the relegation of authority that is given to the council, fiscal planning offices, as in the relegation of authority that is given to the registrar and the deeds registrar, as in the delegation of authorities that is given, he has a relegate to land surveys and mapping. All these people who fall under the minister must be subservient to the very sacrosanct section that determines the mandate the minister. That a mandate alone, which is the provisions of the above, as is written there, they sum up the duties of the Minister, the Minister of Lands, Water and Sanitation Services. It simply states that the Minister's duty is to set up frameworks and implement policies that respect and honor the provisions of the development plan. Everything that the Minister does should be in line with this very sentiment. Anything ultra-vires to this mandate goes against the very fabric of the establishment of the office. That's where we start in terms of development plans. So, development plans have been in this country, as I say, for many years, decades. Okay, you're excused because you didn't really understand the implications. But after today and going forward, it's going to get very hard for us to be excused. We become culpable in the crime that will deter or cause a backward motion in progress. So once you have a development plan, then you have an obligation as a citizen. First, you have an obligation to check it, to have it. Now, what I've noticed, which I picked in my years of service in this country, was that the authorities were not too happy to share the development plan. They didn't really quite, in fact, once told me, I think it was about 10 years ago, as I was busy harassing them, I didn't realize what these guys have been here. I mean, highly, Yamuchudi was in there, I think, since 2008 or something. Yamuchudi has been running since 2001. Can you believe it? Then I where's the development plan? The land boards, but no. I don't know what to do. It's got to be able to train. Who am I saying here about the truth again? As I'm again. Okay, but why train? And then I couldn't quite understand the psychology. I hadn't started studying our officials. I hadn't started studying why they say the things that they say and whether they do understand the implications. But I don't know. I don't know what the development plan. And you know, your students, they don't have development plans. How can they prepare themselves to go out into the world and be effective? It brings tears to my eyes, I can bring a development plan. Do you really know what it means? Do you know the enormity of the weight attached to a development plan? Do you know the difference between a 10-hectare field and the difference between a 10-hectare commercial plot? In value terms. Can you wrap your mind around that? Do you know what this is a 10-hectare field? It's not a field anymore. It's a commercial plot. It's a value. Value it. Value. Do you know that's the sin in terms of value? What's all about humanity? Humanity ourselves. It is us. We and the white men don't do those things. He looked at us, he won't tell us that. Even our white friends will tell us, but we really have them say, okay, they're happy to call him but that's why it's a rat. Because I will check in with development planning. It's my first question, and I want you to adopt that same question, son. Over boards, or check out development planning. Let's call things what they are legally. And you know this omission this colossal mission has been carried out by professionals. Professionals like myself, lawyers. Then they say you criticize us. Of course, hell yes, I criticize you. How can you make such an omission with your education? The same omission in the planners, town planners. I haven't met one. I'm looking for him. A town planner who has observed and recognized them. Valuers, a valuer. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why they made that mistake. Because the flaw is a built-in flaw. Or it's a patent flaw. It's a land board. Land board it's a commercial plot. Easy. Development plan anything. Buy it and still give you a certificate about it's a field. They're not allowed to do that. That's what this law is saying. You're not allowed to use it like that. In fact, the Tribal Land Act itself has got laws. There was Section 17 in the repealed act told them categorically, no land, you can't issue any grant that contradicts the zoning that is stipulated in the development plan. And the only legal use for any piece of land is that which is encapsulated in the development plan. That's the only legal use. Why are we all over the place? I don't understand. It used to frustrate me. I used to think I'd lose my mind over this. But thanks to God I didn't. Now I can ventilate. Now I have the opportunity to share the burden. They boldly look at you and tell you, oh no, you must see. Maria, but are bold and bodacious, stubborn as they come. But the price we pay is the regression of the society. Instead of moving forward, we either stagnate or move backwards. But we want to move forward. We have children. We want to upscale the game. We want to innovate, create, rise up with the rising sun. This is what our destiny is about. So how can I do it? And it is not only authorities that are doing this misdeed. It is across professions. And then they undervalue. They transfer about the value you are thinking. About answer the wrong value. If you apply you are the wrong transfer duty go best. One thing to the next, to the next, to the next. Breaking the cycle of harmony. So that omission alone has led to the regression of society. The regression of society in respect, insofar as value is concerned. You cannot do anything with land unless the title of that land is regularized. Once there are two scenarios, brothers and sisters, I want you to listen to me carefully now, okay? Let me try and bring out a chart, and I want you to just bear with me. I'm just getting to a certain point in the level of this lecture that is very key. Okay, so this one doesn't come up here. Baby. Okay, I see. Maybe I should. I'm trying to get this one. See this one? I'm trying to get this one up. I want to give you what you call a logic circuit. It's a logic circuit to tell you how to approach a piece of land. This is what should happen before anything can happen. In other words, how development planning is thing. There are two scenarios. Those two scenarios are either with a certificate title before development planning nothing. That's a possibility. I get development planning where government determines what is going to do a development plan. So when we in a development plan, we don't do certificate about the plowing field. Development plan let's assume you got a certificate in 2010, and then development plan maybe look at 2012. What certificates are on the part of thing they use is really where the key is. things when it comes to development plans. How thing use what they tell you certificate in South and plowing field. My remote development planning, who the residential housing complex or the commercial or industrial. Again. So in that instance, in that instance, the title that you have, or the certificate that you have, or the lease that you have, is not in sync with the development plan. Agreed? Yes. Or you could be issued a title after a development plan is already in place. The lease certificate, title, or whatever, after the development plan. The assumption, or the legislator, is that after, but you say you correct. I think the authorities knew. That's the assumption of the legislator. Poor legislator, he's not here. How about after? Whatever what they think, what they want, or how the way they want to please you about size. But people don't know when Germany had or no, Germany deserves to be commissioner because they're not animals. You understand? So they can decide that. But these two scenarios are always obtaining at any given point in time. Either you got yours before or you got yours after the development plan. It doesn't matter whether you got it before or after. The title must be done what you call, it must be regularized. There's a word called regularization. In the law, they call it alignment. Alignment is to bring into consonance. It is not to change the land use. I want to quickly bring you to speed. Change of land use and regularization are two different concepts. Change of land use is where you motivate a change to happen. You go to town with your story. Regularization is when the change has already happened. When the zoning has already happened, done by authorities. By the way, I will tell you may want to know how development plans are done so that you know whether they're so compelling. Process and in the Town and Country Planning Act that I told you to buy, please familiarize yourself with how a development plan is formulated and read Section 20. Section 20 of the Town and Country Planning Act. Development planning, all the stakeholders, so that there is nobody who says they can eat. What do you meeting with Hodemo, Raconsaldiwa, Rata, Raring, Ebuyu, development planning, like you knew. If they can say, I don't know, Hana, Mulawa, Olita, or protestor, no, not about Minister of address, but the minute it is gazetted now, it is adopted. I think that's Section 20, subsection 8. Minister adopted, and it becomes immediately operative. Which means you can't do nothing to that land. Nothing. What's following what the development plan dictates? Nothing. You can use it, as that law said. You can develop it. What's that development plan? But what has ensued in our country is a malady. It's a self-curse where we have continued to use land contrary to its development plans. To allow authorities to just approve. Wow, imagine. Just imagine. Because I've got examples. I'm not accusing our authorities. No, I would be wrong to laugh at them. You don't laugh at somebody that you differ with. The duty of a man who has a degree of civility is to help. It is not to scorn on and to make fun of. Because I'm not looking for votes, I'm looking for your minds and hearts so that we can work together to do exciting things. If I was looking for votes and score points, we see this is the disingenuity of politics. They don't look at the content, they just look at what can end the point. So now I'm on a different path. Now I want your hearts. I'm looking for your favor. I'm looking for entry into your thinking so that I can be able to be a part of it in a productive way. So how would that development plan? Land body because the cancer is saying what they don't observe that law is Section 3. But what about farmhouse right in the middle of the road? I've got examples. I'll bring those examples. If they want us to charge them with breaking the law, we will. We're not afraid to charge them just to show, holy, we have a point. That we're not afraid of. But there are examples. Let the minister run to charge him and take him to court for this violation. It's not beyond us. We will charge him only to the extent that he thinks he's bigger than the law. Then we'll have to charge him. And you will help me charge him. Because he will be standing in the way. We are trying to have a discourse, academic, involving legislations that are known, law and policies that are there. It's not an argument. It's not a Gilbert thing. Gilbert, there's a lot of like people reacting. They're just reacting because I'm not looking to be right as a person. I want what is right. I guess what is the difference? I'm not looking to be right. If they can teach me today the correct position, I'll adopt it tomorrow and go with it. But they do things that contradict law, and then they don't even have to defend themselves for some reason. So how right in the middle of a highway, a planned highway, they give permission for 20 years in the Greater Mogodisani area. This Mogodisani area. I'll show you some of the development plans over the break, so you just get to look at them, many of them. And then you have a responsibility as citizens to comply with those development plans. So you can get your wealth. Get your wealth, comply and get your wealth, and develop accordingly. Now, they don't. One, want people to have those development plans. Two, they go ahead and approve developments that are contrary to development plans. Three, professionals continue to transact land that is not regularized. It is illegal. The bond is registered on the bank. Oh man. The bond is registered on the bank. Many of them are wrong. They shouldn't have been registered. The deed registrar should not have allowed the registration of unregularized title. How would that see when what is a commercial plot? Whenever you beat already, it's a plowing field. Wow, we bond up because you want to get a loan. The registrar delegated powers from the ministry is supposed to say to you, is it in consonance with the development plan? How do you know about that? Only when it is regular can you transact land. You can't transfer rights, which is what we're doing on a wholesale arrangement every day, transferring unregular titles. The business of transacting unregular titles in Botswana is prolific, and that's what leads to poverty. Poverty comes from, not only poverty, but want. That's what leads to that's why it is the only time when you will ever catch me saying that only time. I get because of my Pan-African inclination. But here, my brothers and sisters, this is the part, because there's too much at stake. It is about follow. And you cannot deal with unregularized title. We mentioned here, all land. This is the logic circuit. Regularization, alignment of title to development plan. Any piece of land within a planning area, development plan, a planning area. What is the first thing that is defined before a development plan is the area that you are going to populate with the plan. So, which you will see in the town of Kati Planning Act. Okay, what do you start with? Planning area. Define. Planning area by define. Planning area, that's when we start now populating it. So any piece of land within a planning area has to bear a title that reflects what is encapsulated in its respective development plan. There are two scenarios, as I mentioned earlier. And those two scenarios are before the development plan and after the development plan. Okay. Beg your pardon. And then now you would ask the question. No land is transacted upon, meaning acted on. To transact is to act on. Unless the title is regular, as regularized transactions includes, and these transactions they include transfers, developments, bonding, hypothecation, acquisition, appropriation. No one ever there. No one ever acquire. That's a transaction, by the way. When you acquire from someone, it's a transaction. When the state acquires from you, it's a transaction. Even if the land board comes and says, I want to take your land, you have to regularize the title before you take it. Because you are using it. And it says, don't use it. Don't use any land without making sure that it is in accordance with the development plan. So, that is a transfer. What levy, what market value are you going to attach to it if you have not regularized it? If it is a transfer, what transfer duty are you going to apply, go base, if it is not regularized? Kind of regularity is the law that makes sure we don't act outside, a certain framework. That's why we regularize. You don't use something if it is not regular. It's like, I don't want to regularize and say, done away with them. Want to come and regularize your and get the right one. And we're not going to with the old one. Once you come and regularize, you can't. You have to go and regularize so that you gain the opportunity of being able to use the right thing. So then, now comes the part that I want to sort of, sum up this first phase of our discussion. The most popular is acquiring. We want to acquire from you. Now, we need to also, alongside understanding what a development plan is, we also need to understand, as I said, everything is legislated, everything has got laws. Nothing is done helter-skelter. From what we adopted from the white man as a way of a livelihood, a system of governance, he gave us laws. All I'm trying to, or attempt to do today, is to just familiarize us with those key aspects of those laws that have a relevance in our lives. So everything, and unfortunately, a lot of people out there, have access to this sort of knowledge. And we would have hoped the society or the government or the civil service, the public service, is not in a parasitic mode in terms of the way they deal with the general public. If we would have hoped before interaction. Unfortunately, when the ignorance also is within the authority, it leads to the blind leading the blind. And sometimes people think that what they're doing is right even when it's wrong. People have got that tendency. When they have done something for a very long time, which is what we are finding, they just believe, this guy's crazy. Because they've been doing it for too long. So therefore they can't understand they've been wrong for 20 years. For the past 30 years, since we can get, hey, that's a crazy thing. Eh? It feels crazy to realize you've been wrong for 30 years. In fact, the normal human reaction is anger at the person who's pointing that out. Where is the psychologist in the house? He is.
You contributed 25 years of the 30 years that I've been there. 25 years you contributed.
Who's that? I did?
Yes. You were part of this system you are describing.
I never worked for government, sir.
Were you not with the names?
Me? Never worked for government, not a day.
Okay, let's go.
I think it's the colors that are getting you sort of thrown off. the colors are for patriotism. Not government, patriotism. It's nation first. Government only when it deserves.
I've got a mouthful for you. Let's go on.
Yeah. Of course you got a mouthful. Now you think I'm the wrong man. So that's the way it is. Where was I? I lost my train of thought. Your energy. So anyway.
Wrong for 20 years.
So we go now to when we deal now with I was talking about people doing things for a long time and believing they're correct. Because when you do something, you condition yourself. When you do something, you program yourself. When you do something, you reinforce. Every day you're doing the right thing. Every day you're doing the wrong thing, rather, the wrong thing. Then one day, somebody comes and says to me, by the way, I would drink a right. If you look at that one, no. Let's reason. This is the, oh my God. And then when you look at the lives you have affected by doing the wrong thing, then you become even more, damn it. I've cheated, and that's what the land board has done. And that's what and the ministers. It's a crime. Listen, truth and reconciliation is not beyond us. We will reconcile. These are people. We should not maintain the status quo just simply because the egos are being battered on. No. That part we can pass. I don't think, they may be afraid. How are we going to go out there and tell these people that we've wronged them? Can we give them a public apology? I just think it's in order. You can. And then we can look at the way forward. We're going forward now. Can we please put our ducks in a row and do things properly? So at any rate, I'm getting to this sensitive subject, the acquisition. There is legislation for every process. Don't be afraid. The Constitution protects you. It's about you. Don't listen to the noise that makes you feel despaired from the halls of government where people say this, the other say that. Sit and relax and hear that which is an entitlement by law. And let's organize entitlements. Let's streamline efforts. Let's focus this energy that is all over the place and put it in a singularity. And nobody can be able to just tip this thing over. Sililuli knows it is good that you came because we have to create support groups even. Land Watchdog. We have to create support groups even. Emotional support groups. People have died because of the stress of this discordance that I'm talking about. This discordance we are going is not just it affects the people on the ground. I'm back down there. I see people, I know people. I've seen people with strokes and they die, literally. And the government officers, they couldn't bother nothing. They just keep going, eating more magwinya, no problem. Life goes on. It's because they're not sensitive to human life. God didn't give them that. It's okay. But if He gave it to me, don't fault me because I want to speak to a hurt that I know is wholesale and it's at a national level. And if I find an avenue, the reason why I started wanting to talk now is because I can't stay in my office and be thinking of personal problems that are so heavy when I know this is a national crisis. So I chose, I must go out there and become a teacher of this same thing that I'm trying to solve so that we can build a critical mass of people who have got a certain level of understanding and we organize ourselves in a very studious way, in a very organized way. So the issue, your acquisition, it's all right, hold on, sir, hold on. The issue of acquisition is big and they are a lead development plan. And I want to do the tie-in in just the remaining few minutes of our home, this part of the lecture. This acquisition that you must understand, Horomende has the right, as it were, to expropriate any land. Let us start there, for public purposes, national interest. That's the right government. Horomende don't have the right to repossess land for public purposes. Put it in your head. And there are laws that govern how he does that. There are laws that govern and regulate how that is done. These are not secret laws. These are laws in acts of parliament. Horomende don't have the right outside the hearts. What Horomende does not say again? Ke go tsaya le hearts la title is irregular. Did you hear me? The title must be regular. Again, you remember what you can't transact irregular land. It is wrong on all levels: legal, accounting, valuation, surveying. Any you can look at any homo. And by the way, I just removed that other slide before I told you what the manner in which you regularize your title. The legislation, they knew we would have to regularize land. But I said, how about regularize and has? This is what you can do. There are several acts. I'll just quote a few. One is Section 5W of the Deeds Registry Act. The other is Section 3 of the Town and Country Planning Act. The other is the Removal of Restrictions Act. It's a whole act that deals with just correcting a title and bringing it into consonance. Then you could have, there are various acts. Then you've got the Development Control Code. I think it's Section 8.2, the amended one. You've got various attempts there. Title must be regularized. But why? Because when title is regular, then you can transact it. Horomende don't have the right to acquire. Me have the right to acquire irregular. Nobody, even Horomende, has the right to acquire irregular irregular titles. What are we acquiring if it's irregular? We have to apply ourselves. If the title is regular, then what does Orlando acquire? See, when it is regular, then we know exactly what he acquired. Then he can declare even the value, even everything that is related to that piece of land, it can be done. So Orlando doesn't have the luxury to acquire unregulated titles. Now, when you look at expropriation or acquisition, in a whole section, you must get, because 70% of Botswana is tribal land. I urge all of you, and I say it again, we will read it together. Get in. Garata Societies didn't send you like a Garata because of that. My brothers, I will read it with you. We will bounce it off me. You will tell me where I'm wrong. Please go and buy the Tribal Land Act. It contains 70% of Botswana. You need to have the Tribal Land Act. And when you get the Tribal Land Act, please also buy the Tribal Land Act regulations. It's got regulations. And whenever authority come to you, Tribal Land Act, the Land Board, it's subservient to the Town and Country Planning Act. Whenever authority come to you and say anything, they must come in through the Act and what the Act says. Don't allow yourself to be caught up in unregulated engagements. I want to say that again. Do not allow yourself or anyone to engage with any authority over unregulated engagements. Unregulated, they are not part of legislation. Any legislation that is guiding the process of engagement. Land boarding is very notorious of just coming and doing something, as I told you, unregulated for years. So if they can do that, do you really think today when they come to you they are different and then they will do things according to any legislation that you know of or that you don't know of? Sometimes I found in my interaction with them that they don't have even the knowledge of the very acts that they are supposed to be the custodians of. Havana a thorough knowledge of those very acts. So therefore, they can't dispense that. The best way to work with them and to teach them without engaging high legal fees and lawyers, and because lawyers are also tricksters, I found. They make money out of injustice other than justice. They are like the caretaker who makes money from coffins. Yes. Because his bottom line is interfered with. This is the truth. Lawyers have a similar tendency. Total professionals in general are a problem. So this is why you need to be empowered yourselves. And it is not rocket science, like I say. It is something that we can do step by step. So that every time you come off a book, I got my guidelines, bro. I got my guidelines. There are steps. The Tribal Land Act regulations, regulation 18 and 19. 18 gives steps of how it's a jam. How do you step deeper? When you do that, you are violating the act. So you don't have to have a lawyer. What you need to have is the marching orders, the guidelines, the directions, and we can do that in the way of a support group, a service that is inexpensive, in the broad reach into the society, not just a few select few who have money to buy lawyers who can start articulating things. No, this is not like
just on that point, where you are at.
Why don't you make notes, sir? So that I can finish the lecture. Everybody will want to ask you, so what's the problem?
One thing, not more.
Right, are you writing?
I've written it before I came here. Let me tell you.
But you have to respect the house.
1 minute. Talk a land NGO. Uto hausuble, uto hanuelo like man. Talk a land NGO where we can all.
Yes, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. That's tough. It's okay. Don't worry, sir. I know where you're coming from. You come with pent-up emotions. It's fine. And this is why I'm here. And this is why your suggestion is welcome. Oh yes, oh yes. We will never disagree with something that is going to carry us forward. We would be stupid. We do need an NGO and then some. We need hot brains. We need people who sacrifice, who can say my life, my prayer, my sacrifice, and my death are all for God. that I'm not afraid. If you take me, take me. We need to have that volition, that voluntary spirit. Ya go rutana, mme re sa rutane gibberish. Re rutana se e leng gore ke kitso e tseneletseng. You know, e ka re ntsha go tswa ha go a go. So I wanted to just say to you, the expropriation or acquisition regulations are in section 18 and 19 of the Tribal Land Act regulations. There's some mentioned also in the Tribal Land Act. Know them, know the steps, know exactly what it is. How about that? No, but one notice. No, 14 days before they must give you notice. They can just come by, they shoot from. So that's why the chance everybody, because they are serving a population that is not as yet sparked up and activated, as it were. And that's why the land activism. And that's why the activation that we intend to bring. I've been getting told to slow down a bit, I suppose, or maybe wrap up. I don't know. I'm not wrapping up anything. But for what it's worth, I will concede and say, thank you for paying attention for just these few minutes. There's a lot more, and of course, there's a lot more that I would like to engage with you over. But just for now, let's just consider that an introduction. Thank you.
All right, another round of applause for Mr. Sisi. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting into a short break, okay? I hope everyone has had a nice break, a refresher for round two. The round two is going to start off with a bit of a Q&A between me and Mr. Sisi. I'll ask him a couple of, it will be a discussion more or less, okay? Then once that is done, we'll take questions from anyone here, okay? So how the questions are going to roll out, I'll just ask you to ask your question. I'll ask 2 people at a time to ask questions. Then we'll give Mr. Sisi the opportunity to answer those questions. Then once he's done, we take another round of 2 questions. He answers them. We take another 2. He answers them until Nakwaro Naichai. I get it? So I hope you have those questions ready. Ministry of Lands, Council, this is your chance to vent out. Let me just pull the cable closer. All right. I hope we are visible from here, from down here. I'm a very short man, and I hope my height does not make me look almost bodiless from where you're standing, from where you're sitting. All right, Mr. Sisi, welcome back. Me and you, I know we've had a lot of these conversations, many times running hours and hours. All right, but for the benefit of the people that are in front of us here, now let's be practical now. We've heard the lecture, we've been in the lecture room, we've been taught. Now practically, step by step, how do I move from having my farm, that inherited farm, to a place like Mahan's Pakalan? How do I move from to having a multi-residential with roads inside, with houses inside that I can maximize the value of the land from?
Okay, thank you, my brother. Let's jump right onto it. There are different scenarios for different circumstances. People are in different areas. How am I? No, I development plan to take in the last session there. High trying. In way is more refined. Second way, they are still at the stage where it's just dezoning. For example, in a development plan, how do the area I think in fact it's prudent for me at this stage to just pull out a development plan and put up a development plan on the screen, so that our minds are aligned with that which is. We will just take.
While we wait for him to put up the development plan, okay, while he's setting up for us to view the development plan, can I see by a show of hands here those who know their land aligns to the development plan? Those that know what the development plan of their land is. Okay, 1, 2, 3, or 4. All right. From these 4, how many of you is your land aligned to the development plan? Oh, it's not my piece of land. What is shown on the development plan is what I have on my title. 1, 2. All right. So the others, you've got a Masimu on your title, but on the ground you've got something totally different. Am I right? Okay. So you're at the right place. We're going to have to try and clean that out today, so that you move from where you are to where you've been, to where you need to be. Okay?
Just give me a minute.
Okay. All right. I'll take one question while we wait for Mr. Sisini. Sir? Then to you.
Should it be a question related to his deliverance today?
No, you can.
Okay. What's the difference between the freehold title versus the secure land title this time?
Freehold title and the secure land title.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I jump or I should wait for you?
We take it.
All right. Mr. Sisini will take it. But for my 2 cents,
That's just as a start off. I think I can use Hawaii because it's the most. It's the one that people are most familiar with. As we are in Hawaii right now. Okay. So typically, this would be just an overview of the part of a development plan that is called the spatial map in picture, the development plan in picture, as it were. And the question earlier asked was, how do you migrate from a farm holding, an agricultural piece of land, to an estate? Now, the development plan, some of them have got just zoning. For example, if you look at on this particular development plan, if you take an area such as, let's go to the airport area, right about here, right? Well, there's a color there. And then of course, here also, you see the green here? Yeah, if you go to the key, it'll tell you what that green is. Ground the key, I get it. So when you go to the key, you go to the green, you see what, the green says it's open space, okay? Which is this green here. Now, if you happen to have on this green, you've got your piece of land here. That's one scenario. You are still within the development plan. The development plan is defined by the boundary that goes right around what we call Habarut. Now, if inside here, there is another zoning, the economic free enterprise zone. I think you want to go on a level innovation hub and everywhere where they're trying to do like a smart city arrangement there. So if you own only a piece of land here, then you would fall within the zoning. So, moki zoning, But if you go into the development plan further, you're going to now come across more than zoning, which is now already plotted. You see here, these are actual plots now, as opposed to an area like this one, where it's just the general zoning. So it depends where you are. The point I'm trying to drive across is, it depends where you are. Now, if you are in an area, the zoning is determined, but the development plan also has a layout. More layout, what my brother Elias says, more layout. There is a possibility, if you just bear with me, for me to show you what you can have a piece of land in that zoning. If I take, for example, let's take my brother's plot here. Brother owns, or client owns this plot here. Are we together? But underneath that plot that he owns, there's a layout. This is the requirement. The way I want to lay out the plot. So, ena simuabeki. Ona nani simuela 1 hectare. Just the modest 1 hectare. And it's me in that 1 hectare. Hormentos is a layout. In fact, let me bring it closer to home. Maybe with your permission, Mr. Polinian. Are you in the house? May I pull out your layout? Thank you. So because now when we have clients in the house, then we will make a case study around him also, as we speak of other people. But let me see if I can bring his superimposed Labahani. Yes, so you have to say Labahani superimposed. Just give me a minute here. Labahani. Okay. We can do this. Okay, let me just open it as a open, just give me a minute. Let me open it in my CAD so that I can manipulate it. Now, right. Okay, where are we now here? Okay. Praise is due to Allah. All right. This is one of my clients, one of my favorite clients actually. He has confidence in the unseen, even when he was, So brother here owned my okay, in a place I think it was again or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, there are 2 plots. If you look at them on the homo, he owned this piece of land. He also owns this piece of land. But it's in a development plan. Imo development planning, Muchu's development plan, which is the lifespan is 2007 to 2031. He got his rights around the year 2019. But you notice, he got his rights inside the time period year 2007 to 2031. But when the land board came to him in 2019, they said to him, in the presence of the development plan having been adopted as law. So there he is with these 2 plots and the layout. So now when you look under his plots, you will see plots. Some of them you see plot number 1, it's an Katie wing, plot number 2. I got one development plan irregular. No, there's a misalignment. That was his inheritance originally. That then got over superseded by the development plan. So in this instance, it's a mathematical exercise. The process of regularizing title, the first step The titles are already paid. One for plot 25128 and the other for plot 2522.
12913.
Yeah, sorry, this one is written wrongly. You get 25128 and the other one is not 25128. Let me correct it on air, brother. 25129, right? The two plots are his. He has got title deeds to both. So effectively what takes place in this instance, called title, which we call the parent title, must assume the land use. For example, we go to 25128. Equally remove leasing over the plowing field. They must remove that plowing field and put the actual use, which is mixed use residential. This area is mixed use residential because it's Harare mixed use residential. I must explain to you also about land uses. There are different types of mixed land uses. I'll bring up also, hopefully before we part today, what leads over the land use. So here, mixed use residential just means what the area you are in has both residential and other uses, but predominantly is for residential purposes. The other uses are what you call supporting uses. They are there to support the residential land use. So all the plot number 11 on Repoliniana's home. Why? It's not a residential plot, it's big. It's probably a civic and community plot to build up a school, a hospital, the things that serve the community. But the rest of these are actually residential plots. So his parent title, which is the title for the whole, must read mixed use residential. This goes for this one and for this one. They must both read mixed use residential. Now, the parent title is Alabana. That's how it works in land surveying, in planning, and in conveyancing. Why we call it the parent title is because Mohoyone, the subtitles that we call sometimes subdivisions. So the regularizing of title. First step, the parent title must assume the right use before we go akabana. Because I had said earlier, you can have a zoning. You can have a zoning. I'm trying to show you the difference between when there's a layout and when there's none. When there's a layout, the parent title has to then go beyond just correcting the parent title use. When there are no, when there's no layout, the parent title is sufficient. Finally, the land use is a land development plan. So we are in this instance we are dealing with other smaller subdivisions. Now, the rationale, which is what is encapsulated in the legislation, the Travel Land Act, the affair and the Constitution, in dealing with this, what needs to be observed is the rule of 1-to-1. So when you bring regularization, the two aspects of regularization, land use, your title, the land use on the title. The second one, geometric alignment. In other words, we are going to do away with this boundary already. It must fall away. It must die. The mother must die so that the children are born. So we look at the mother. How big is the mother? Here it is. We go and check the area of the mother. The parent, you nearly back and tightly. Area the mother is 2 hectares. That's what I've just calculated. 25128. So Repolinian needs to be given an equivalent of 2 hectares of plots. In other words, these plots that fall under his title, how did you compare them mathematically? They must equal 2 hectares. We're not compromising him. He gets his land. He gets the equal of his land. And he must get 2 hectares of plots. You see? That is the fair, it is the process as it is mathematically. You have 2 hectares, you get 2 hectares. And then I'll answer the question here. What about ditsela? Are they part of the 2 hectares? And the answer to that is yes and no. They become part of the 2 hectares if ditsela tse o di neelwa repolinyane. Me ha ile gore ga di neelwe di sala le the authorities, then ha re di balle. I'm saying that because I want to talk to you about ditsela. Another thing that is quite worrisome, and this is what our authorities also believe. It is another area that will come around in this whole process of trying to understand land deeper. There is a reason. Title deed is a very, very important word. The white man knows it. In fact, it only in 1983, after President Masira commissioned a commission, how can we convert tribal land into title? Did we start understanding title deeds on tribal land? Before 1983, we didn't have title deeds on tribal land. We couldn't bond with the banks. We couldn't use our land to leverage value for development. Do you understand how young we are? We need to know, we're very young, and a baby when they're born and they're young, you need to nurse them. We can't afford to beat up this baby, otherwise, we are young like that. Title deed is actually there are people today who don't even know the value of title. There are countries in the world where you cannot have land that does not have title. Every space is accounted for. Every space. In other areas like Hong Kong, not every space in terms of land mass, everything is accounted for. Even when you go up, you account for it. There is a reason for that. That means this thing can feed into the finance system of the world. People don't understand deeds registry and its relationship with the banks. We just lately learned how to loan title to appear on the checklist. And then that's when we started thinking we should get title. No, title is for more than that. It gives what you call real rights. It gives rights that are unique, that are measurable, that are quantifiable, that are consequential, that are leverageable, that are collateralizable, that have got all the ability to be able to bring home money. What is money? Money is a piece of paper that represents land. Money in of itself means nothing. It's just a big piece of paper with a dead president on it. It means nothing. You can throw it away actually, but insofar as it does not reflect the value of the land. But that reflection of the value of the land, where does it take place? Where's the interface of that? That interface happens when title is there. So if the road is going to, we have roads, I know, water utilities, BPC, they're all culpable. They come, I don't know, in other countries, you can't have water lines that don't have title. You can't have, because then how are you going to leverage? You can't have roads that don't have title. That's why we have a pothole problem. You can't have sewage without a title. Whose rights? Water utilities, the assets, you can't, it's called dead capital, that concept. In the dark, in the black world, we have got dead capital. We have got assets that we cannot reflect on the balance sheet. What is your balance sheet? Because it doesn't have title. So your worth is undermined by the fact that you don't understand what the balance sheet everything that we do on the land. And your investment, you have land. You've plowed in so much. Over the years, you've spent so much money, but it does not reflect because you don't have title. So it is important that roads have title because it's a structure. Road is a real estate. Real estate students the other day. Real estate is not just about buildings. Real estate is about developments on land. Whatever those developments are, mining is real estate. But if you know, the Chinese can come in and take over an airport in Zimbabwe and take the title to it and collateralize it. And all of a sudden we've got a functional airport. The Chinese can come and say, bring us the highway. You can't have an asset that does not have title because then the value of that asset will never accrue to you. So you are throwing money down the rabbit hole. So what? A1. Do you know the worth of A1. Do you know how many millions the government actually has that it does not realize? Because they take title as something that you can just scorn on. You can't take half-baked solutions to the system and the whole. This is why we have Dipatela. How many title deeds? Say, Princess Marina, do you know the value of Princess Marina? Where's the time? I was at Sekitubile the other day. I looked at that humongous investment, running into the billions, but they don't have title. Government just spends money. The next thing, the windows fall in. When you build something, you must have title, so that the maintenance plan that you draw is against the title, the value. Title makes value, it releases value. Title, and this is the magic of the white man's world, is that they could like a system that works. Title releases value. Without title, you can't release value. So you think you're poor, you're not. You're just not formatted what you own properly. So yes, I'm saying this because I'm going down to the issue of the roads. I'm saying that to say police stations should have title. Anything that is an ability to generate income. My police are fire every day. They're standing in the streets. They've got an income revenue stream. Yeah, asset is if you've got an income revenue stream and you've got title to what you own, you can create wealth in an amazing way. That's why my police could be having the best policing facilities if they could just value the money, the assets, tie them to title, collateralize them in banks, not necessarily banks. They could use pension funds. Pension funds will finance us. The same pension funds that has Larona could be taking title and financing our own affairs. We don't need help from outside. We can self-finance as an economy as long as we can put across the mechanism that works, the mechanism that is tried and tested. Value creation, these dead precedents on paper should start making sense. It will be titled. So the roads in that layout, sorry, I digress a bit because you have to walk carefully here. There's a lot of issues, brother. So when you look at the map that I just showed to you, it's 1-to-1. They will give you all those plots. Let's say so that the equal amount of the land that you have, if it's 2 hectares, then you get 2 hectares worth of plots in your vicinity and a little outside. Then we kill the parent. Then you are left with how many title deeds for 25128? 25128 will then give us a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Then he will have 15 title deeds. My brother is talking bank now. My brother's got a residential, he's got like residential plots now. 15 title deeds from one area that they lied to him in 2019. So many years into the life of a development plan. My brother can now look at them in the eye and say, I'm going to build some affordable homes on my, what used to be. See, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. Then you've got your title deeds. That's how you moved from Simu to the title deeds and blood. Because there was a layout that you adopted. But you adopted it systematically. However, you didn't just rush to ignorant land board officials that never studied land, but want to argue with professionals. They love to argue without knowledge. But we don't want to argue, we want to present systematically what the law says, so that we can arrive at the finish point. So my brother will have those title deeds. That is the answer to that question.
Okay, so from what I got, the first step is my property or my land should have title. I regularize it, I have title. Title gets me 2 things essentially. Title gets me a document that I can use to prove my ownership, and it also gives me access into the doors of the bank, into the financial market. When I hold land and I hold it in a format that is governed by law and is recognized by the Deeds Registry Act, I can then walk into a bank and access money and turn my land into money.
Absolutely.
Capitalize.
I want to mention this. Also, there's a possibility there will have been no layout there. I can't be able to, how on a layout, how was a layout today? Still, the parent must be regularized in the proper use. Yes, so in that area. How was your kind of how about the layout? But the layer so near and I get it. So, you get the title regularized first and have it have the right land use as per the development plan. And then after which, then you can propose now with the right land use. I get what the mixed land use 2 hectares, mixed land use. Now you can walk back to them and say, I propose to subdivide like this and have this layout. You do like Mahang. Mahang didn't have a layout. He had a farm. First he got the farm. Where's Mahang? Somebody says something. Pakalani was just a farm. There was no layout first. He changed first the farm into a mixed residential land use, which means he could come up with layouts and plots and roads and whatnot of wow. Then he proposed in phases. I'll do phase 1. That is why he's got phases. I'll do phase 1 first. About super America phase 1. Hi, it's about super America phase 2. But it's about approval. How much of our approval? Why develop? The only mistake that our giant of real estate made, and I have told him, so it's no secret, is that I said to him, you didn't take out the title for the roads, sir. And he says, what? And I said, you should take out the titles for the roads. You took out title for everything, but you forgot the roads. So because you forgot the roads, the council came and said, then he says, I have a problem. I can't afford to maintain the servicing. And we get no. If you had title, you would. Because then, if you had title, you would say to the bank, the roads are mine, so the rates are mine. The rates, they're called service levies. Get the levy for the rates. Get the levy for the service rather. So if you've got title, where the services are, then you can borrow money from the bank and repay it with amortize the rates and repay and maintain with the collateral being the land. But you can't do that without title. So Mahang ended up having to surrender his road servitudes for free to the council. How sad. And he's stuck. The council took it, all of it. He could have been a lot more wealthier than he is. But he's done well. He's done well. But we won't repeat his mistake. So I want you to know about roads. Roads are land, and they can be a business. You can be into the business of providing. Roads is a business. Why do you think toll gates are? Toll gates are more obvious. How it's 9 townships? Toll gates give way to another system. Don't play with the white man. He's so advanced, brothers and sisters. He's not a joke. He doesn't just have things happening that he hasn't planned for. He accounts for everything. He accounts for every piece of land, and he knows what sustains, what pays for it. There are no free services, no free lunch in the white man's world. Everything makes sense. So, money highway, toll gates or house plates, or this is a business. Who do you me how once I'm not a robot with a township was a money toll gates. Title it's actually that title is on behalf of the municipalities. In America, there are townships, municipalities have title to all their internal roads. Council should have title to everything. All these roads in the title. What about the one of maintainer? They must have titles for the park, where our kids are getting raped in parks and killed, or where we don't have Maitis or Harry Lane because we can't develop these open spaces. We don't have recreational ability because we cannot convert the open spaces into a business that can be able to entertain with zoos and all these things that can bring the youth into a certain semblance of activity, work out this crazy energy that they have. Now there's bush all over. This dysfunctionality is a demonstration of a lack of understanding of the world we live in and how it's supposed to be done. And with all candid as I can, our leaders don't understand this thing to the same level, detail. It takes somebody trained in the area who has got not only the knowledge, but the courage to tell the leader that you are missing something, sir. If you could just. So I'm just going back there to say, High level, I want to lay out the thing. Still, this is how it works. And then just a point to note for it. Somebody was asking about tax, we take it for everything. Open spaces, everything. Secondary schools, primary schools. The difference between a primary school and a private school. Not side primary school. Lily said, go not side in a title deed. Mahua. Say, listen, haba. And you say that poor. I'm poor.
7 squatters. Title.
Title, oh, don't take me there, brother.
That's what you told me.
I said your house. Now there's another issue called sectional titles. He's going ahead of me. I will go into the detail of title. Title is like intrinsic in everything. Leave the bedroom is out of that should have title. You won't believe me when I say that.
Yeah.
But in Mauritius, that's what it is. In Hong Kong, there's no wasted space. Leave 7 squatters. Title. It's called sectional title. This very school must have title. This auditorium is a sectional title itself. The next is another. The next is another. When you have these, then you can convert into the dead presidents. Sorry.
I know my brother when he gets fired up. We could be here till, and I like it because hey, you can imagine how much I have sucked in the past couple of years. All right, now to get to the Q&A so that I don't ask the questions that I have, which I want to get your questions. There was a question on the secure lens title. I'll get another question from the gentleman at the back, and then from you, sir.
I have a few questions. I'll just give one.
Yes, sir.
Who gives the title and why?
Okay.
You talk title all this afternoon, but who gives it? Who gives that person the right to give the title? And why does this one person become the repository of that great title?
Okay. All right. The next question.
Yes, thank you, sir, for the opportunity. I'd like to ask, that case study, the one that you just started,
Yes.
I think it's been happening in many cases in our country. So my question is, we know instances where anyone will come and they say, okay, you've got Massivo, whether it's 12 hectares or 10 hectares, we use 10 for instance. We'll give you an equivalent, we'll give you 10 residentials. It doesn't matter what size they are, but we give you 10 and we are repossessing your 20 hectares or 10 hectares. Number one, I want to ask is it legal? There are in comparison to that one, because you are saying that you must get an equivalent of 2 hectares. That was 2 hectares, the equivalent of. So, where they've come in and repossessed the plowing fields of Brazil, and they just give you whatever number they want to, is it illegal? What steps do you follow to make sure that you rectify that? That's one. Number two, I wanted to ask this one earlier before we went to the break. Because receiving is referring to Acts of Parliament, is referring to a couple of policy documents and the law statutes. Well, now my question is, where is government? I mean, if we use these tools that are there, that are legal, that are in public domain, is there any hope with our government? What gives them boldness to go and violate the same thing that's supposed to be ordered in our country? Is there hope? Are they learning or they're not learning? Is there any whistleblower?
All right. Before I allow Racisini to take the questions, just a comment on the one: is it legal to be compensated inadequately, as you were describing in that scenario? Well, the land board is very smart when they are making that happen. They're very smart because they know one aspect of the whole transaction when it comes to acquisition and compensation. They know that the quantum of the compensation is based on a negotiation, and your ability to negotiate and stand on what you deserve or what is your right. So that negotiation of the compensation only became signed and sealed and set in stone recently with the advent of the new act. But previously, it was said you just need to be compensated adequately. So they misused that word adequate. So they would come to you and say, no, I don't do my line. And when you sign that agreement, albeit how unfair and how illegal it is in terms of the act, because you have agreed to it, it is like, how take it valuation 2 million, we negotiate 1 million. It is an agreement, right? So they have, that's why Mr. Sisini mentioned that in the session before, that do not engage in something that is not regular with what is in the act. Because the moment you engage and you agree and you sign, there are instances where they have said, okay, refer half, compensate half ya team. Well, come on, man. It's my team. How do you take my team and compensate me with my team? But these are things that are alive and breathing. But they take advantage of your lack of knowledge. And sessions like these are meant to put you in the know. And so that when they come at you with that kind of, with those kind of tactics, you know how to rebut. And so without wasting much time, I'll allow you to answer.
Yeah. I just wanted to...
who gives title and why?
Okay. All right.
Then the other was this one that I was discussing.
Yeah, I'll go get to that as well again.
Okay.
No, that's...
The first one, then the SLT one also.
What is the SLT? Can you...
what is the difference between the freehold land and SLT?
Absolutely. Was it the first one?
Yes, it was the first one.
The
second
okay.
was...
All right. Well, let's start with the first one. What is the difference between the SLT and... we are pedantic, or we are scholars. So even the name SLT is not a legal terminology. The actual name is the deed of customary grant in terms of the law. This one was just a coin marketing word created by government to look good and talk of secure. But you are the deed of customary grant in terms of section is it 21 or 22 of the Travel Land Act. So that deed of customary land grant is freehold. Freehold just means the land is held in perpetuity. That's all. Understand it like that.
So this guy's the same.
It's the same. Yeah. The land is held in perpetuity, meaning there's no term period. It's not a lease of 99 years. It's not a fixed term of 40 years, 30 years. No. It is your right until Methuselah comes. Or for as long as Methuselah is here. So I gather that should be okay, brother.
No, thank you.
All right. And let's go to...
Who gives title and why?
Okay. Title is a mandate prescribed by acts of parliament, the laws, the legislation. It's the same as Bomang. You know, who gives out Bomang and why? Who gives out licenses and why? Well, it is a legislation, okay? That is part of, that's why we want to acclimatize ourselves with these legislations. The why bit is more important. The who, we know who. It is the deeds register. Title is only title until it is, your rights to land are only called title when they are registered in deeds. Before then, it's just an allocation, it's just a user right. It's just, we call them title when they are registered in deeds because they are consequential. They now have everything that the Deeds Registry Act prescribes, and they are protected by the Deeds Registry Act. So that's why that's who gives title, the Deeds Registrar. Why? Well, to serve the bigger picture of development that we say, let's get sensitized to. Title is key. In fact, when they started, they got title of Botswana. Botswana is a title, believe it or not. All these countries, think of them as a subdivision. And the European powers came and said, I want title to this. He had title, he can bond it. He had it. It is defined and it is registered in some repository that is recognized legally, whether by the international courts or what have you. So countries, sovereign nations, have got titles to their various landmasses. That's why I can say you're encroaching, you're trespassing. Because it confers rights, it's about trespassing. It confers rights, it's about deprivation. How can I let title? You deprive me. You are acting against the Constitution. You are acting against my property rights. You know, because if it is not titled, then I can't define the trespassing. You see, our forefathers were about just the user rights. That's problematic. But it's okay. Again, we didn't have that scepter of rulership. Somebody else had. So more or not, it didn't really matter. We just occupied the land and had an understanding. Then the white man says, no. That's not how you manage land. You don't manage land on generalities. You manage land on specificities. It must be specific. That's why land surveyors now are trained to do those measurements to sub-millimeter accuracy. You are in our allowance. It will amaze you how wrong you can be off. We're not allowed to be off even up to, in fact, the Atlas, they've got classes, class A, B, and C. Atlas A is 7 centimeters. 7 centimeters. How was 0.07 of a meter? So you must be within that for us to say that it's correct. So that's why we can send a bomb to your house and kill you. That's why we can give you money and the banks allow for it. I'll give you the millions now because I feel a degree of protection within a 7 millimeter confidence interval or margin of error. So now, title, the reason why title is given, there's a very important question that brother asked. Whether that's the reason he asked, I don't know. But the question here, why title? Title is the propeller in the modern day superstructure and economic order that we live under. Is the propeller of that which we call money. We love the money, but we don't want to fall in love with that which produces the money. We've got a bipolar situation happening with us. We are split personalities due to our historical ignorance. So, we don't want to study the thing that actually money represents. This is why we're here. To say, no, if we can get you to understand this thing, you don't have to ever worry again. Money will follow you because you will have gotten the source. And the source is only recognizable when it's titled. You can't just sit there and no, it doesn't work. You can't just feel proud. It doesn't work. You must have a document that is the logo deeds. This is why the failure of the SLT registration is such a bother to the land watchdog. Such a bother. And others who are equally sensitive. And we'll get to that. The SLT is something around how digital it is a tribal land, the secure land is a huge problem, brother. The country can't go on without titles being churned out every day. Because the titles themselves are the basis for the development of that nation. But I don't think the president knows this. He doesn't want to have asked for coffee, but he's hard to find. If I could just get him to see that thing, But then, of course, maybe when he's at me making noisy things for it, I'm talking against him when I'm talking for him.
Yeah, the delay.
So, brother asked the next question. No, let's finish the question. Sorry, I keep going on and I probe brother there with energy, but let me give you the last question.
It's legal to compensate inadequately?
Oh, brother. Sometimes we don't even need the law. Sometimes just common sense. I've said to brothers, the word compensation, means that you have taken from me something and you are giving me a payment in return. I mean, and you can sit and look at a man. I will compensate. I would say it. I don't say compensate. I mean, how do you take and say you compensated? If I've got 10 hectares and you take 5, or what remains is compensation. I don't know, I thought I was losing my mind at some point. Really? But to talking about that, because they can make you think there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
We say from where I get one day. I can say it now. No, I can say it. I told them. I am sane and clear-headed. How is Alamu to say? Oh, I'm compensated. That's what the law says. Yeah. They've invented some bizarre concept and they're pushing it. Our authorities, they just boldly. But what that's mama. But that, stand in front of people with from people, give them nothing in return, and then say what you left them with is compensation. Doesn't make sense. Do I need to be a lawyer to be able to say that's not compensation? robbery, actually. With consent. I don't know whether I can consent or robbery. But they do this to Masani Baholo, our uncles, aunts, they've gone around the country doing that. And they're so comfortable. Very comfortable. So how is it fair? Is it legal? I don't want to even go to the legality. It is morally and ethically wrong. How in place of what you took.
All right, thank you very much. I hope your questions were answered. Any other? I'll get 2 more questions. One, a second one. Any other hand? Okay, there's a hand there.
Hey, I wish going forward, you as a pair, you can incorporate a psychologist. You are in this sense, or you wish I get this because there's an elephant in the room. Okay, there are laws and guidelines and acts, statutes that these land authorities, but they ignore them. This land authority didn't have anything to do about. How can you a psychologist for a river handler? Because guidelines, the laws, the acts, they are familiar with, but they totally ignore them. They misguide you and they lie to you. From experience, I got a whole cancer with my application. They misguided me with the intention they're going to reject my application. Then we have the land board that totally ignores and faced the court orders. Totally. They ignore whether it's the land tribunal or the high court. They totally ignore. And there are those authorities that totally deny or lie to you. From my instance where deeds actually told me, you cannot have a title deed more a tribal land. So what I want to know, if you're psychologist can come in, how do we handle government title too? Because we have the laws are there, they're familiar with them, they guide them, they use them every day, but I've already listened. So how about something that they know, but they totally, their minds are about it, they don't want. So going forward, how do we handle their minds and what? They are tribal to the right.
No. Comment to that. But anyway, there's
other questions? Yes. Let me just mention those that are watching and engaging online. You can also send your questions so that we engage you in the conversation and you get to answers to your questions. You can proceed. Then there's another hand. Then Mr. Sisini will answer.
All right. No, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Mr. Sisini, for calling us to this convention. It's quite enlightening and liberating to listen to. I would pay more if I could for such conversation. It's my first interview and actually meeting you. It's such a delight to see someone passionate about land and its reform. God bless you. I say Allah bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm as passionate as you, man. I worship land, and I believe that the day we start realizing the value of land, we'll go really far. I started real estate for that sole purpose. And it's good to meet people like you who speak passionately and are unapologetic about what they represent. And I believe God will bless you and protect you. Because you are arousing really bad energy from others who really are about the vices. My question really, my brother, is two-faced. I think we ought to also equally be careful, actually, because, at the end of it all, the apex of it all is that we are tenants to the land we talk about. And that's where the real estate and the governance of things comes in conflict. The fact that we hold title that we are tenants to sometimes it becomes a double-edged sword, a referee and player mentality. The very people who are purporting are illiterate and are not managing this land properly are people we are tenants to, in the fact that we hold title and tenancy to. So it is actually not fair. I mean, I sometimes listen to land tribunal cases that present a referee and player tactic, where the same referee is the player, and you're expected to win. How do you win? Where you are sitting and fighting against a system that is actually the landlord. So it would be nice to have technocrats like you one day I wish for Botswana that has a minister of lands being someone as literate as you. Wise people, not... oh, by the way, the views and opinions that I'm expressing right now are just solely to myself. No one else but myself. The church I go to that I'm wearing, it does not represent, I don't represent them right now. And it is a Sabbath, I'm also an Adventist, so please, those who are recording, please note my disclaimer right now. so I must say, so it's quite, that was my first point of view. I'd like to pick your mind on that. You're quite a knowledgeable man. The next thing is that one of the reasons why I'm here one of the reasons why I'm curious and I was aroused by your conversation is actually issues of sectional titles. I've even decided to bring my significant other, who's my wife, to come and help me in this. You know, sometimes in the bedroom we fight because we do not bring them along for such conversations. And I decided to pay for her to come and I'm actually 90% there. So the sectional title topic, how do we liberate our technocrats on this? Because it's quite a very obvious thing. You say it and it's very smooth. But you get there, we meet people who want us to draw boxes and say there are buildings. Whereas we can literally have a round oval as a monument sitting in the CBD to express our Africanicity.
Yes,
so talk to me a bit about sectional titles and what we can do to liberate our people from cities that are dying, such as, or townships that are dying, such as Roberts. Take me through that. Thank you so much.
Your hand was up. I'll come back to you. I'll say, ma'am, your hand was up. You can speak.
Oh, okay. My question is, taken from his case study, or is the compensation thing the same whether you have a title deed or a certificate? So if I have a certificate for a plot and then landlord says to me, now we are rezoning your area and I'm already there with my title deed. What conversations should I be having? Would they be the same as someone with tribal land certificate or someone
We'll get the answers. So I've noted the questions. I hope he...
Yeah. I don't know. Try. Certainly was Bolingera first, right?
Yes.
More like a comment.
On how to deal with...
I believe that this meeting, it's actually better than even being in church by a meeting like this. You know why? Because I cannot look at rappel la go dira gore re bue dilo tse e leng gore tota ke tsone tota tse re di rapella. To meet like this means that we begin to affect the society. Problem is we are silos. We are dying in quiet. The frustration can get to the point of insanity if you don't aggregate with your kinsmen and women and have a discussion, fireside chat, honest. Hape go sa antagonize ili thuto se ka dipuisana. Hape go na le professional, ale honest le ene, without trying to hide things to make money. You see, there's this thing, we corrupt the energy field, because we don't realize what might is, and we can all assent to all make that money. There's a lot, the psychological element that he speaks of is true. It is part of our history. The Native Advisory Council. It was set up deliberately by the person or those who came to colonize us. And they set it up and made sure it remains that way. Until 1983 could we get title. That thing should tell you something. We were independent in 1966, but we only got title to tribal land in 1983. What was going on in between 1966 to tribal land? I don't almost would worry you. You should be thinking. So the value of the land was just being enjoyed by those in freehold territory only, because they deliberately removed freehold land from tribal land. Land is land. It doesn't say it's freehold or whatnot. Yeah. I mean, I see a guy Pakalani across the road. This guy is actually literally in Pakalani. Man, just because how to move old. tribal land. It looks like the land is different. Do you think the land knows that? I mean, the guy is a Pakarani. He's got all the benefits that Pakarani has, and he's got 10 hectares. And they look at him, and it's not many of my clients sitting on prime land. So all these segregatory mechanisms that were meant to undermine us are at work, brother. Divide and conquer is at work. We've got to heal. And we must heal. And when you want to heal, you don't accuse too much. I know our authorities irritate us. But if you don't, you've heard me go off at them because I'm irritated by the way they do what they do. But I've had to calm down. I've counseled. I've got calm brothers. Like, that's my best friend in life. I've known him for 45 years. Give him a hand and he's here today. He wouldn't be anywhere else. He is a different kind of brother from me. I'm sure you haven't heard a word from him. He listens very well. And he's measured. And he knows how to tell me, stop it. You understand? Reflect. That's what a friend is. You are onto something. Don't blow it up now. I know you. You're going to stop and mess up everything. The next thing we won't make progress here. You've got what it takes. Calm down. So, little now, we must know that we need, the Bible says, speak a gentle word to Pharaoh. Perhaps he may mind. So, yes, they're frustrating us. But they themselves, I've had instances where ministers come to me, even after office. I mean, I'll mention the late Ramadil Gazarete. He joined one of my groups and said to me, I'm so sorry of all the things I was doing. I didn't understand. I've been tearful a lot. I cry a lot. I let my emotions come out. I don't block them because this thing is very emotional. Your own son, Algolen Boyd, will do you in as a Isokoyena. Do you in your anti-madness? These are our children. They're not people coming from anywhere. We don't speak of them as though we're speaking about the oppressor, although they've got the mentality of the oppressor. Because they are in the outfit of the oppressor. They have been given the power of the oppressor. They went into those institutions unsuspecting. But machinations set up that make them work against what is in our best interest. It's very painful, that thing. That's so dysfunctional. Are you fucking crazy? Sorry. But is there something wrong with you? I mean, that's the ultimate. Once we go to court, I give you a court order, you act. But you still got people who just out of their own demons. I call them demons. But how do we come at demon in this context? I wish when we pray tomorrow, we will pray from a demon. I didn't know. But to ask about it, but and these are the weak qualities that you have. But I'm saying, brother, you've been so good. You've done so well. He's gotten court orders. This man, court orders against the very thing we're talking about. There's a case study. He came to me. I'm a land surveyor, and planners were telling him, "Don't go to Sisini. Sisini knows nothing about planning. This professional protectionism. Professions. People like to feel that profession is special. The knowledge is knowledge, boss. Your profession is just your profession. When you meet one who wants knowledge, he can yank it from you. So planners have been doing the wrong thing, and one planner actually had given him a layout. I don't know if he remembers it. That contradicts this very layout that's approved. And I came to him and said, no, the man is crazy. What would the rest application? When I met him, it's like 5 years ago. I'm like, no, you're not going to make any traction with the wrong. That's why how similar on the wrong note. You are culpable. So we need to make sure that everything we do, all these processes are regulated and they are legislated, and we need to and we will still meet stumbling blocks but brother, you cannot afford to give up on something that is going to set free your own children and great-grandchildren. You are one of the most shining examples that I know in terms of having gotten the courts even backing you up and tribunal. Yes, no, it's a very funny institution. It's not a court, it's a sham court. It's not under the judiciary, but under the executive. Can you imagine? So courts are under the judiciary, but this one is not. So the president of the next tribunal, I said to her once, but you report to the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Lands, who pushes the agenda at the land board. So you notice they've got a lot of remittals and land board. they're trying to help land board in all ways that they can to protect land board from the errors that the land board makes. But these are our institutions. These are our institutions. They're not foreign. They were not imposed on us. Well, you could say they were in a manner of speaking, but it's what we use. This is what we got. If there's a strategy of getting us out of this, let's employ it. But let's be very strategic. Number one, let's be totally on guard when it comes to Formula 1. Yo is non-negotiable. I'm talking about no, I can't talk about someone. No, I'm not talking in public service. How long I've met Bosisini out there. We know the story, we know what time it is. Don't do that. And then show them what you mean. Don't just say it. I've met them again. They start dropping their heads, something hit them. They start feeling somewhat. So you must convince, we must reform our institutions with facts, I say, with faith, facts, truth, and the law. My motto is faith, faith first. You need faith. Without faith, there's no works. You can't do nothing without faith. I couldn't be here without faith. Faith first, then facts. There must be facts and truth, then the law, then the law.
Clarity then. Is it possible? Is it lawful that can bypass the land tribunal and go to the high court?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Depends. Yes, no, but brother, it is possible. He's asking if it's possible. Yes. What are we see? We go on. Yes. Yes. I mean, but you see, this is the thing. We need to. People are trapped by what tribunal. What tribunal I don't understand is just there's constitution, by the way, brother. The tribunal is under the constitution. If your constitutional rights are violated, you have access to the high court tomorrow. And again, yeah. If your constitutional rights are violated, you don't need any other tribunal to deal with your threat to life. And threat to property is threat to life. Sorry, okay. I must try and sort of can you get my brother here? But I think, did I do? Oh yeah, no, let me do sectional. I can So yeah, brother, sectional title. As I say, the white man is so advanced. More advanced the thought. He doesn't only deal. And if people, you must buy my book. I'm writing the second book.
Where is it?
It's there. This place and order we deliver. Well, I mean, show them a copy. Just buy my book. Buy my book because it's my journey which I want to take with you. I book too. I can't write book. Can't they get irrelevant? Somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Just share it with them. I want to be relevant. I want to work with you. So I'm going to work on a second book. We need to deal with the first book. Book 2. 450. It's worth about 450,000, but 450. Same number, sir. Same number. You just take the book around. You buy the book. Support me, so I support you. Make me strong and make you stronger. Because I'm determined to work for you. So if you don't make me strong, then I'll be weak. How can I be strong? And you make the wrong people strong. These lying lawyers. You make them strong. They don't stand for you. Choose a man who is for you. Who can stay up at night for you. I've been with brother 5 years. He knows for it. He knows for it. My door is open. It's hard, not easy, but it's a journey worth going on. It's a journey worth. Now, sectional titles are marvelous. It's a marvel. It's an upgrade from land. It is title to buildings on the same plot. Let me give you this example. You have a plot, one plot, and on that plot you have many buildings. Either those buildings are conjoined or are not. Doesn't matter. I remember when I started, and I am first Motswana sectional title surveyor. This brother here. Before I go parliament, now I'm in South Africa researching. Going into the officer of Schultz, the surveyor general, Mabu, he actually said to me, Antari, by the black child asking these questions? Yeah. We're here, we're born. I'm not alone. There are others that are coming. We don't just cry racism. We reverse racism. So there was a restaurant in the air called Midland, on the N1. I went in there, I looked at it. It's a travel. If I'm with my kids traveling on holiday, they're having fun, I'm not. Every society I go to, I study all the time. It gives me joy to study and come back and tell you what I saw. Because countries are like, can we give up what's building, title here, in there. Come on, or the highway passes like it's like it was a Max restaurant with the candas, so you can get over the little thing and go, I am a woman. When about then I became detour, I could offer them, offer them a filling station in Italy there. So I went in and then I bought a sandwich or whatever they were selling. I didn't want the sandwich. I wanted the address on the receipt. So the minute I'm sure the waiter, I thought, that's a crazy man. He gave me the receipt. I actually walked out, guess I picked up one, then I came back from the road, get a sandwich, and got in the car and drove straight to the Surveyor General's office and asked to see the Surveyor General. Please, may I please see? I'm a man looking for knowledge. Can you just an audience not too long with him to ask me? But you know, you'll be surprised how these whites, when they see that you're genuine, how happy they become. Honestly, the white man is tired. Eh? He really wants to hand over nicely, but he can't hand over to just he will listen, and then what are you going to do with it? I cannot really tell him because you didn't know how to use it. Now we give it back. You still won't know how to use it. Taking it doesn't mean you're going to immediately develop skills. You must understand the science before you want the ownership. In talks with EFF about all these things, just slow down the government. Can we get into another area of understanding? Too much, but it's fine. It's a joyful debate. Anyway, then I learned, this guy then tells me, oh no, there are titles that you can create more people. Really? Yeah. Of what? Of the building. No, give me 1 second. Then they got the title before the building or the building. I'm motivated. What is that? How does this title work out? Everything is three-dimensional. Can you think three-dimensionally? But yeah, if you can think of title in it, cling, 4 corners, why can't you think up? About title, do you know what you own? You have all the rights, all the way up to where civil aviation stops you in the air. It's yours. But you're only existing in the two-dimensional plane. So your plot, you think you just own the two-dimensional. You've never thought, for hiding eye towers, what rights do they have as they go up and up and up and up? What rights? But who owns that? They do. You own up until where authority keeps you. You own up and down. That's why I'm in the basement. Go down. You've got title.
Lady Satellite.
Lady Satellite. Oh, brother. I don't want to go to Elon Musk. I mean, I want you to be ready to be able to produce children who will come after Elon Musk. Probably Elon Musk is already here. Yeah. But we want to be able to prepare ourselves as black people with the quality of knowledge, the philosophy of land. They're already in other planets. They're into virtual reality now. They're not into land anymore. White man is done with land. Land is our business. And also society are in space. They are creating all sorts of other dynamism out there. But because we are not now catching, we need to catch up. So sectional title. So here we are going. Has a sectional title per se. I mention it because I think I need to give it to you that. It's called Limited in Height. No, and I went to South Africa, studied it, I've got my file on it, came back and became the surveyor. That sectional title law before I did it. In essentially a bill in Parliament. I went to South Africa, studied it, came back, sat with the director here and said, guys, you have to go there. And you have to be able to issue such things. So you have to be proactive. I was proactive in the sectional title hall. In other areas, and then they went, study sectional title, and the sectional title, as I said, deals with many buildings, title to buildings on the same plot, one plot. Actually, what you know is that title is for a plot title. But if more plot than you, when I need a building, every building can have like a multi-res, an apartment building. Say Moana Park. You know Moana Park Mall? You notice what buildings are. KFC, KFC hell. More the common space. Then you have what you call a body corporate. The science goes on, and then you are able to have levies and participation quotas and whatnot, and have a system that is congruent, that works within itself to produce that value, and then it's a mini little. So sectional title, title, yeah, bedroom, title, yeah, sitting room, hey, client own hotels in Dubai. You own different rooms. Those different rooms are owned by different people. Everybody's got a title. The guy who owns the reception is a different guy. He specializes. What's the title to the reception? Oh, restaurant thing. What's the title to the? That's the world we're living in. That's how it is. In my book, I talk about visiting Tongara Estate in Stellenbosch and meeting a billionaire. Can I just a billionaire? I want to know what is happening in this estate. That's how we get the 2 years out on music. Billionaires who do crazy things, you know, making so much money. May I arrange this estate in a majestic way where he owns different things and dinner destination. Me, I said you own his own. I own only the hotel part. Me, I say when I own a restaurant, when I own the plantations, the various plantations, when I own the winery, or by winery, but I go wine. Why no bottler? This is called synergistic multiple title ownership. We'll get into that. It's another area of land that is very exciting. Integrated farming. Please, integrated farming, that's cheap. We'll show you real integrated farming. And we've started on that journey. So sectional titles, brother, are about ownership of...
Hey, come on.
Oh, my brother is on fire today. My brother is on fire.
Certificate and title.
Yes, there was another question on certificates and title deeds in relation to the example that was given on the case study.
I get it because, which is the good thing about our parliament, is that, you know, somebody who was saying, it's like, and they keep evolving laws to get closer and closer to the ideal. So the current law, the Tribal Land Act, Section 22, which is, I think you must all go and buy it. I get certain books we must just have. And so that, because we need references. So this Section 22 speaks of how anybody cannot have any rights to land except they be issued to him a deed of customary grant by the deeds register.
Yeah.
Everybody. Now, that law, what it achieves or attempts to do, the certificate they've fallen away. The lease they've fallen away. You are no longer expected to transact land that doesn't have title as a deed of customary grant. No more. Yes. I can answer the question, what would have been, what would obtain. And then I would say to you, I hope you understand, right now, going forward, nobody is supposed to transact any land anywhere it is not have been regularized in terms of title as a deed of customary grant. But going forward, looking back, why would I have the value of my land in a certificate? Would it have the same as Mutuelo where it has got a registered lease or registered title? And the answer is, you know, when land doesn't have registered real rights, a lot of the trappings so the Deeds Register Act are not available to that land. In truth, the valuer, they're not allowed to value land that doesn't have title. Because how many square meters are you valuing there? That is known. Kind of title means accurate measurements. So how original 10 hectares? Yeah, but you are saying that. Certificate is going to be 10 hectares, I get it. But is it really 10 hectares? I found many instances where it's not 10 hectares at all. Because somebody made an assumption. People were walking and pacing and whatnot. So the floating nature of a certificate makes it such that it doesn't accrue the same value. Because it is not accurate. And you cannot put it on your balance sheet and pledge it, hypothecate or mortgage. So the value of land that is not titled is wanting. In other words, it cannot attain the same status, legal status, as a registered right. So therefore, even though in terms of substantive value, if there are diamonds, 10 kg of diamonds in my land, that doesn't change whether it's certificate or not. So the substantive value should not change, but you'd find you're exposed if you don't have title. And I'm bringing it now to say that the law doesn't allow that anymore. I'm going back now to what I started off by saying. The government is failing in honoring its performance. And we have an issue, a tit-a-tat with them, because they're violating the very law that they set up. 6 months was the only time frame given to have everybody with secure and title. That is not happening at all. It embarrasses them. I understand their authority. I understand. I'm a parent. I know when I'm exposed to my children what it feels like. I understand that psychology. It's not like I get around worry the president doesn't like me doing this or the leaders don't like me doing this, because I make them seem irresponsible. But what is the cost? So we cover up the truth at the expense of the liberation of a whole nation of people just to protect egos and people's status, political status. And then the president said, mindset change. We're changing. It's happening. Real change. They involve knowledge and action. So we are being failed in that we don't have that which the law says we should all have by now. We should all have secular. So that question, you would not even be asking it if the law had lived up to its worth.
Okay. But I think the question was in relation to compensation. Does it make a difference whether you were titled or whether it's certificate?
Yes, yes. In relation to compensation, it shouldn't. But I want to caution you, or they are not allowed to repossess. Canada are letting people do things that the law says they shouldn't do. They are not allowed to repossess before you have title. Again, you must transfer the right to them. When they is doing the dovetail operation, someone, understanding here. But this is the resolution. Or because, no, in land transactions and conveyancing is a science, a very thorough science. It's not a thing that you short circuit and do little things. So, some of the officials, they will say, how to authority, because you're going to confuse yourself. You're going to bring cultural elements into a science. There are certain tenets that must be observed. Answer no kana horosana urumile bomalo magoreba go batala mosadi mutabata anyetse mosadi go. Kana when you do that, you are creating confusion. Hypnotism, I call it, hypnotic language. You are confusing people. You are not talking about the substance of it. So land is transacted in a sequence. When we come to talk of the secure and title, quote unquote, customary deed or customary grant, it is very, very, very serious stuff. That's the white man stuff actually. The white man doesn't operate, he operates deeds. Yeah, so that deed, it's not only exists, that proper. It's traceable. When we do searches, we should be able to go right back to, so it's totally similar lesson the equalize. So if you are in a process, your compensation, no is only the deed of customary grant, then you are involved in an illegal process. You are in an illegal process. In the same way we say, we do a lot of things. Again, we trust them. We trust them. We think they know. So when we go to the offices, we do it. But we should all have. So to that, even if you were to agree, let's say you agree to the compensation. Now this is my compromise. If you agree to the compensation, there is no difference whether you are holding a certificate or not. Can we end it like that? Yeah. After I told you all those things, when it comes to compensation, I know about compensate out of the regularity, it must be exactly like you've got title. Because we're talking about substance of the land. Yeah.
All right, that was a mouthful, yeah? I hope everyone got an answer to their question. Just a comment before we get our closing remarks. Okay, I'll get your question. The gentleman KG had asked a question or a comment on the issue of us being tenants and the state and the ownership of the land. To some extent, yes, we are tenants on that land, but to a greater extent, on the 70% of the land of the tribal land, the very preamble of the Tribal Land Act, it states unequivocally that the tribal land, the land board holds the land in trust for the tribes. So in essence, the land does not belong to the state, tribal land. It doesn't belong to the land board. It belongs to the tribes. But because they realize that, hey, it's not regular. So to regularize it, you're Murafi, the land, in essence is the land board. But it has been peddled or meddled such that land board. In the land board, if the state they have to acquire that land from the tribe. The owners, the custodians of that land, they need to acquire it from them for it to be then called state land. So the real practical essence of ownership of land, it is owned by the tribes. It is owned by the tribes, not by the state, but it is held in trust by the land board on behalf of the tribe. So, but because we have been made to believe that but the constitution also makes it such that the state has the first right of refusal on your land. They can acquire it, and you can't say no, but they have to compensate you for that acquisition.
And follow the procedures.
And follow the procedures. Okay, I see there are a couple of hands that are up, but our time is up, and I am being told by the very strong-handed organizer that, gentlemen, we are past our time.
No, let the people ask the question.
Okay?
I'll stay here.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I will brief. Please.
Okay, we'll get the two questions and then we'll be brief so that she gives us our closing remarks and we can go.
Okay, my question is, because these guys now are delaying...
There's one.
Thank you very much, I think, for all the information. We do listen to you quite a lot, and thank you very much for the information. Now, my question is, you mentioned with respect to the government of the right to acquire the land. But is there any difference if it with respect to freehold? Because I think we made to believe that if it's freehold, it's more like a no-go area. More to do with the tribal. Is there any difference, or the law applies equally, be it tribal or be it free? That's the first question. The second one is with respect to resolution. You said government is failing now to transfer. Now people are holding resolutions now. Do they have the equal representation before law as resolutions relative to whereby it was a secured land title? And what can one do with the resolution legally?
Then there was one and one at the end.
I think I suspect similar to this last one. By an extension, because these guys are dealing with to change our certificates to the, you say deed of customer and rent. Yeah. Is it possible that I can withdraw my certificate and go direct to the old title deed?
Good question.
Yeah. Then the last question, ma'am, at the back.
Well, my question was, is there any way you can explain about, the estate?
Okay. The deceased?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any way, or if you can't, that's
Yes.
fine.
No, that's fine. Yeah. All right, no problem. Come on. When I said freehold land and tribal land, and what a tribal land now with the new form of title becomes like freehold. Now, freehold land falls, both these fall under the Town and Country Planning Act, freehold or tribal. The difference with acquisition when it comes to freehold is that what is used is the Acquisitions of Property Act. It's just a different act. But in terms of process, they are very similar. Yeah, they follow the laws of natural justice, fairness, constitutional. They make sure that it's adequate. The Constitution says the compensation should be prompt and adequate. Yeah. Which is fair. And that shouldn't take forever. There's a time frame. You can't keep threatening people or you're processing and take like 2 years without doing it. No. That process of acquisition is timed. And most people don't know that. So nobody can just threaten you to Raza. What about Raza? One naira with land that is sitting fallow for years because they're not ready, they don't have money. How do I know change of newspaper? No, Mutsovali is whole Raza. Is there a Raza and how say? How's that? Don't have to develop according to the development plan. How's that? So it is not any difference between tribal land and freehold land when it comes to repossession. Your rights are your rights. Property rights, the protect the rights, it's a property. Whether they are leasehold rights, whether they are freehold rights, whether they are the rights, you have rights. And the Constitution protects your rights. You see, so in that respect, there's no difference. And I think your follow-up question was
resolutions.
No, yes. Now, resolutions are just decisions. Yeah, they're not real, as insofar as land is concerned. In land, you can't go and bond a resolution. This is why it's very silly for them to be giving people resolutions. You know, the whole purpose of a title deed is to enable development. We should stop seeing it as something that is just to adorn the walls of your house or to put in a file and feel prestige. It's not a prestige thing. It's part and parcel of the cycle of development. Title deed is actually a key aspect of developing your land. It's not something that is a favor, and it is in fact a prerequisite. So you can't do anything with the resolutions. But see about the resolution, because it's quicker for them to issue resolutions than it is to issue title. But they're running away from the real challenge, and which is why we need to sit with them and say, what are the challenges? Allow us to intervene. I have given them a solution, and I'm tapping into what he's saying. Unfortunately, sir, when the new Tribal Land Act was enacted, which is the one that Kirinlewa enacted, the new one, Ibiwa number 1 of 2018, don't buy the wrong one. Buy Tribal Land Act number 1 of 2018, that's the current one. The old one was repealed. And in repealing the old act, they took away certificates and whatnot. They don't do them no more, sir.
No, I had certificate and I had to surrender to them to get the new
which is not coming forth. Yes, if you had a lease, you would be safe. Unfortunately, because if you had a lease, the only opening, they've got transition guidelines that I'll share with you, which was transition from the old act to the new act. In the transition guidelines, they allow the old leases to continue being registered. It's the only dispensation they accord. For the old lease, if you've got an old lease, continue the lease method. I had suggested, lovingly to government, allow the old act to run parallel to the new act, because the new act has got teething problems. I know you're not ready. I went to Homo, had a press conference, and men keep what I'm going to do. I don't want to be seen off like I'm a prophet. You're going to fail. And they failed. Right in front of me, because they were not ready. Then they went ahead about no, let me say no, they didn't so at any given point in time, when you are ready with the security title, you can then call that lease, cancel it, or whatever. Because they're taking problems with any low lease here. It took us a while to perfect. It took a lot of resources and planning and whatnot. I remember from 1983, they perfected around the 90s. So, you know, so send a recipe effectively, repeal it and cancel it. And after cancelling it, so we are stuck. So how soon see the transition guidelines that I'll share with, we will have to create a group for this, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just about to ask.
So that there's continuity.
Can you register the watchdog as an organization straight? So that we fight the government. If it's not registered.
No, it's registered, but you know, we don't fight the government. Don't talk like that. You talk like the brother who's left. He's too angry. It's okay. We understand though. But to demand our rights.
Yes.
In an academic and organized manner. I like that one. Yes. And then the last question was on? Was that? Oh, that was that one. Okay. We're done. We're done.
Estate.
Oh, estate. Yes, ma'am. My dear Mariam. Okay. That's my sister too. So, an estate. There's also this thing in the estate, and it lends itself to the laxity of how we do things. Kind of a casual rights. Whatever. You know, really, man. I was going to tell you yesterday. Do you know what about estate automatically thing, right? Do you know what the title did in my brother that registered? Equal what the estate of the late of my aunt. This registry will accept or go to estate of the late, but the master hasn't registered the estate. You understand? Because we are discombobulated, I call it discombobulation. We're not congruent. So, the only thing I say, you know, what we think we're white people, but we're not white people yet. So, anyway, I beg your pardon. So, anyway, an estate of a deceased must be registered. At the master.
Master of the High Court.
Master of the High Court. That must happen. Kore ha motho a se motho dithoto tsa gagwe must be go gonna le what you call an executor or a curator. I have a certificate of authority actually motho e nna motsamaisa dithoto tsa mmuso. And then sometimes se tswana le sekgwa a di kopanyang teng di dira confusion jana because we run by a dual legal system. We've got common law and then we've got customary law. Problem, I think, shame for us. So we're finding it hard to adjust to common law, but the money is at the common law, brother. We must go into common law full throttle. Even if we shouldn't compromise. So yes, sister, an estate, does not talk. I assume that's a given. That's what happens automatically. Death certificate. An estate registration. They are conjoined. So registered estate. So only when the estate is registered can we take title. Illegally acceptable title in its name. But what you will find out there, and I'm telling you because I've got evidence again, is many titles written estate of the late. It's a registered one. Illegal titles. Imagine. Illegal. Now illegal, like it's not lawful. Like the estate is not there. So how an estate of the late, which entity are you referring to? So, as a matter of procedure and process, Haram does not talk about it doesn't have to be how you don't have or estate, it doesn't have to be the family again. Or it has to be. Okay. But I suppose there's no family, brother. Yeah. So you how family resolution. At the tribal level, we must always involve our tribal element to ratify the common law processes. We need to get or endorsement from the tribal administration. So how's no register? On the family resolution endorse you ngore re dumela le re le ba lesika kana ba ga la para gore re gore se mama ke ene mo tsamaisa dithoto tsa estate ga bona se mama be re tsa go mo e be ra to the master aba go register estate e be a certificate how to certificate so now we can go and deal and do titles in the name of this entity because it can be sued, this entity. Because it can sue this entity. Again, it becomes an entity registered with the master. So, in terms of estates, that's the fluid ground that we are tapping in, and it's being also ransacked and bastardized in a manner that is really unfortunate. May we?
Yes. Thank God.
All right. We've had a very lovely session. Just one last take home for everyone. Remember just this. The first things first port of call. Title, and alignment to the development plan. And we'll be home and dry. Okay, so in closing, we started off with the word of prayer. We'll end it with the word of prayer after our closing remarks. Or we'll get the closing remarks, then we pray. Again. All right, thank you very much. We'll welcome Lutando to come and give us the closing remarks.
Thank you so much for coming to our very first masterclass. We are the Land Watchdog. The Land Watchdog is a group of young people mentored by Resisinyi. We fell in love with his knowledge, and we pray and hope that he pours it unto us so that it's not only relevant for his generation, it's relevant for our children, relevant for our grandchildren, hence the Land Watchdog. Thank you for trusting us with our first baby. We know we didn't start on time. Thank you for being gracious enough for being patient, with us. And we're learning as well. We're learning how to treat you. We're learning how to treat our expert. And we're learning also what time works better. I think the afternoon doesn't work for this. It needs a full day. Because it looks like we need to really unravel a lot. Very soon, we're organizing Office Yaga Resisinyi, so there will be an office where you can reach him. There will be times where you can book for an appointment. Like he has mentioned, his book is available. You can order and we will deliver to you. It's $4.50. Please follow us. Currently, we're only on TikTok. That is where you can find our content as the Land Watchdog. Very soon, we'll have our YouTube channel and many others, our Facebook, our Instagram, and all that. And like the name says, if you have any questions, queries, hiccups, in issues pertaining to land, our doors are open, and our numbers are on our flyers, but for easy sakes, you can reach us on 7412-7. 7412-7. Very soon we'll be setting up our office in Gabs, and it will be very accessible. But thank you so much for coming. And our masterclass, the next one, hopefully if the team agrees, we plan to do this a monthly thing. So the next one, please watch out for a date in August. So it won't be a repetition of content, it will be like a different topic altogether. So please bear with us with your pocket. This knowledge is very useful. I believe that the $250 you spent today with the knowledge you got here, it will make much more than $250. Other than that, we're open to suggestions in terms of how we deliver, in terms of where you'd like to be. Maybe you want to park. Please do reach us on that number that I had provided and just drop in a suggestion. And like I said, I know Resisinyi has been directly, you call him and say, I want to see you, but we're sort of professionalizing that so that Lene, he knows how to rest and, fight this fight for us. Thank you so much. Shall we pray? Can we pray? Father, we just want to thank you, Lord. We thank you for this vision that has come to pass today. We thank you for the great knowledge you have bestowed upon your servant, that he has the capacity to even pour it unto us. Thank you, Lord, for breaking up the clouds and pouring this rain unto our land. We receive this gift of knowledge and we pray for the ability to use it, to exercise it in our lives, oh God. May this knowledge, oh God, impact our life in a positive way. And we pray that, Lord, as we go home, guard us, our lives, guard our cars that we're driving. In Jesus' name we thank you. Amen.